solve the audio problem. I hope the audio is not too loud now because I increased the volume. I think I may have figured out what was causing the issue. Alright. I think it should be. I think I figured out what was causing the trouble. Anyway, let's continue then. Well, since I'm gonna have to export all of that to as a separate video to YouTube, I guess let's call this part 5. So that they're probably numbered. Properly numbered is what I should say. Okay. What will happen to Miss Pavlova now then? Once we reach Great Britain, she'll be handed over to the British police at Scotland Yard. What about the fact that she ran away from Russia? Won't the Russians try to repatriate her? Apparently the English detective can speak to the immigration office and sort all that out. Mr. Sholmes can do that? So she won't be going back to Russia then? No, I don't think so. Even if she wanted to return in the future, I doubt she would be able to. She ran away, so now she's in exile for life. I see. I'm sorry. Seaman Stroganoff? I wanted to help our angel no matter what, but I didn't think about you, about how you lost a good friend. I hope the volume of the music is not too loud now, because I had to increase it considerably. Right, I hope it's not too loud. But I didn't think about you, about how you lost good friend. I will go with Nina. I will give myself to British police. That's kind of you. In the meantime, thank you for letting me go free again. Kazuma's death feels like such a waste, but... Well, do what you can for Miss Pavlova, won't you? Duh. Well, I'm afraid you need to pack now. We're due to arrive in Hong Kong tomorrow. As much as it pains me, I'm going to have to hand you over to the consul to arrange your passage back to Japan. Yes, I did stow away after all. I couldn't really expect any different. So, you should get back to your cabin now. It looks like my study tour to Great Britain is over before it's even begun then. To think that only days ago Kazuma and I were laughing together about how we'd tear up the streets of London. That seems like a distant memory now. Oh, what's that? Is it someone weeping? Susanto-san? Naruhodo-san, I didn't know you had returned. Oh, well, I haven't been back long. Inspector Hosanaga just told me I should pack, you know, ready to leave the ship tomorrow and all that. I still can't believe this has happened. I can't believe someone's life can be over just like that. Susanto-san. He had such grand ideas for this visit to Great Britain, so many dreams, and now they've been cruelly taken away, just as he has. I thought I could never forgive the person responsible. But now we know the truth, that it was just an accident, just a silly series of mishaps. It's too much, Naruhodo-san, it's just too much. Yes, I know. I wish there was something I could say. Inspector, My duty was to see Asogi-san safely to Great Britain, but I failed, and caused his two closest friends great pain and suffering as a result. I've let everyone down, and I will do anything to make up for my terrible blunder. Nobody blames you, Inspector. And I'm free again now, at least. Huh? He's put them back on? Just as a joke, or what? Surprised, Mr. Naruhodo? What is the meaning of this? Oh, a trifling matter. Simply that in my head I think I shall always picture you wearing those shackles. Without them, the balance seems all wrong. It's distracting. Sorry? So I decided to restore them, for old time's sake, shall we say. You're a stowaway after all. He thinks this is funny? Mr. Sholmes, we do appreciate all your assistance. I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Not at all, not at all. And though it's a little late, may I offer my sincere condolences. The loss of your companion is truly heartrending. I hope that you will be able to fulfill some of his aspirations in his honor. I'm afraid that won't be possible. We shall be disembarking at the next port in Hong Kong. We have to return to Japan and make a full report about everything that's happened. What? Wait a minute. It's just me that has to go back, isn't it? I mean, I was the stowaway. The terms of his study tour were negotiated by the Department of Justice in both Great Britain and Japan. It was to be one lawyer and one assistant. Was to be? Well, if there's no one to assist, there's no need for an assistant, is there? In the light of Mr. Asogi's unfortunate death, I'm afraid the study tour can no longer go ahead. Oh no, I don't care for me, but... Poor Sato-san. My dear fellows, the majority of problems have an extremely simple solution, you know? All you require is one lawyer, and the study tour can continue, surely. But there is no one else with the necessary qualifications, Mr. Sholmes. We know of no other lawyer. Qualifications, you say? Any qualifications obtained in your own country will be of little value in Great Britain, I'm afraid. Oh, but anyway, the voyage to London still promises a good month of time. Ample opportunity, I would say, to find yourselves another suitable lawyer. Yes. Mrs. Sato? Yes? Do you think perhaps I might be able to do it? Ah, but you're not a lawyer, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, unless... Are you studying law? No, I'm not, but... I'm sorry, in that case, I don't think there's even a chance it could work. But as I said, there is still more than a month before we reach England's shores. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, I have a month in which to study, to learn what I must to become a lawyer in Great Britain. Mr. Naruhodo? That's ridiculous. Are you seriously suggesting anybody could learn all of that in just 40 days? There's only one way to find out. I would work my fingers to the bone, Inspector, every single day. Will you let me try? And if by the time we reach Great Britain I haven't learned enough to be recognized as a lawyer, I'll take whatever punishment is deemed appropriate. But why put yourself in such a difficult position? For Kazuma, he said that there was something he had to do in Great Britain, and that he would sacrifice anything to make it happen. He was passionate about it. I can't let all that passion just come to nothing. And anyway, it's for my own benefit too. I will become a lawyer. I have to. What do you say, Miss Susanto? I think it's a wonderful idea. Thank you. So, what does our bespectacled inspector friend say? Are you serious? With this guy, you can never know. One lawyer and one assistant. The numbers are indisputable. No, it's madness. Yet fascinating, would you agree? Fascinating. Duty and rules are the dull routine of existence that we all abhor. Give us interest, give us fascination. Speak for yourself. Besides, qualifications are no measure of a man. Hey RNG, how's the sound like, by the way, can you tell me? Does everything sound okay to you? Because I had problems before. What matters is his character, no? And you've witnessed ample evidence of this man's exemplary... Okay, tell me if you hear static if I do this. Do you get static now? And now it should be gone. No? None? Oh, okay. I thought it was because I had a loose cable touch a piece of metal on the cooler of my laptop. I thought this was creating some kind of feedback loop that was causing static. But if it didn't now, then I don't know. I don't know what happened then. Unless... Nah, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know. Anyway, as long as it's fine now, it's okay then. You've witnessed ample evidence of this man's exemplary character today with your own eyes, from the early hours of this morning until this very moment now. Despite contending with the passing of his close companion and despite the accusation of guilt, this man has shown resourcefulness, intelligence, and above all, courage. Very well. I'll think of a clever way to word my report to the Department of Justice. Inspector! After all, I did just make a promise, didn't I? I said that I'd do anything at all to make up for my shortcomings here. Oh, thank you, Inspector. If you'll excuse me, I must pay a visit to the captain's quarters, I think. I need to discuss what to do next and how best to make my report. Are you really prepared to attempt this, Mr. Naruto? Yes, I'm going to try. I wonder, would you consider teaching me what I need to know? Everything about being a lawyer? I would be delighted to help you. I am a judicial assistant after all. Thank you. And Mr. Naruto? I'd like you to take charge of this. What? Me? Are you sure? I'm sure it's what Kazuma-sama would have wanted. Its name is Karuma. It's a great sword that's been in the Asogi clan for generations. Very well, I accept. I'll treasure it always. I would have thought it should go back to its family then. To the family it belongs to, but okay. Whatever. So then, Miss Susanto, it seems we'll be working together for some time to come yet. It will be an honor, Mr. Naruhodo. And for the next 40 days, I shan't grant you a single minute of freedom. We shall fill every spare moment with study. Yes, that's exactly what I need. But before we begin, I have an earnest favor to ask of you two. Goodness, what is it? Please throw me to the ground. 3 times. What? I should never have doubted you. You were Kazuma-sama's closest friend. Of course you would never have done anything to hurt him. That should have been obvious to me from the start. But I allowed suspicion to get the better of me, and no matter how upset I was feeling, it was completely unforgivable behavior. No, you were in shock. You just found out about the stowing away, about me stowing away, and the cabin and all that. No, I won't let you make excuses for me. Whatever the circumstances, I should never have thrown you, and not just once, but 5 times. Ah, that number keeps creeping up, doesn't it? Please, you must. Just take hold of me and throw me. Do it. Don't even think about it. No, 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 I don't even know how. I've never thrown anyone in my life. Very wise, Mr. Naruhodo. It isn't a skill one acquires without considerable training. Oh, Mr. Sholmes. I observed your throwing technique several times with great interest. I confess I was most impressed. When did he see that? I presume that would be a form of Japanese wrestling. Oh, well, in a way, it's not wrestling, but my own interpretation of an ancient jujutsu technique. Apparently, it's called the Susanto takedown. It leaves your head swimming, believe me. How beguiling. I am a practitioner of the combative arts myself. I am a somewhat accomplished boxer. There he goes, dancing around again. I wonder if you'd be so kind as to instruct me on the technique of your arresting throw. Yes, I'd be honored. Go ahead, throw him. Then let us not dally. Demonstrate, my dear madam. Oh, of course. Hey, not on me. Are you ready, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? Aiya! As you can see, you throw from the abdomen. Oh, yes, arresting indeed. And that is what you term the Susanto takedown, is it? Actually, no, that was a Susanto squash. Okay. In my groggy state of consciousness, a scene from an evening recently spent with Kazuma flickered into my mind. Karuma. That's right, it's a prized sword that's been passed down through generations of the Asogi clan. I can't believe you managed to get permission to bring it with you. I mean, taking a katana on a study tour is more than a little irregular, really. Surely. A Japanese man's sword is his soul, Ryunosuke. I can't be parted from my katana. Karuma guides me. I truly believe that. So its name compels its wielder to slice evil in two. Not that you would need much compelling. On that subject. And another bot. On that subject. There's something very important that I have to do in Great Britain. And I'll sacrifice anything to make it happen. I'd appreciate you seeing it through with me. Of course I will. Whatever it is, I'll see it through to the end with you. I knew you wouldn't let me down. That important thing you had to do, I still don't know what that was. But I'm going to see the place for myself and work it out. In Great Britain's capital, London. Crash course candidates awarded. The Adventure of the Runaway Room, Investigation Part 1. Episode 3, The Adventure of the Runaway Room. Hold on.
あれは19世紀の終わり、厳しい冬のことだった。事件は霧深い深夜のロンドンの街路をひた走る乗り合い馬車の中で起こった。馬車には被害者と容疑者の両名のみ、複数の人間がその事件を目撃した。一体
Well, I guess there's no need for the subtitles if it's written in English on the screen.
あのような恐ろしい結末を迎えることになろうとは。我が友シャーロック・ホームズはあの事件を振り返ってこう言った。思えばあの事件こそは序曲だったのかもしれないね。忘れがたきあの日本人留学生と演じた長い競争曲の始まりだ。
But here though, there's not gonna be any text on the screen. Need the subtitles.
すごい。これって本当に駅なのでしょうか。
駅にせよ違うにせよ、これほどの建造物は見たことがございませんね。
蒸気機関車があんなにたくさん。何なんだこの国は。
なんだか夢みたいです。
これが大英帝国のデータ。
どう？あんたたち。
はい。
乗りなよ。どこへだって。
He speaks to them in Japanese.
それでは官庁街の高等法院へお願いします。
いいとも。あんたたち最近流行りの留学生ってやつかい？そうかい。それなら楽しんでいってくれよな。ようこそ世界の中心大英帝国の帝都ロンドンへ。
Okay, I guess I can put the overlay back on now. There's not gonna be any subtitles anymore. When did we start watching anime? Very recently. British Supreme Court Lord Chief Justice's office. What an incredible place. It's so imposing. It's almost suffocating. This place is breathtaking. It looks like a fortress. There are some stone buildings like this in Japan now, of course, but they've only been built in the few short decades since we opened our borders to the outside world. An authentic example like this has quite a different impact, wouldn't you agree? A far cry from the wood and paper most of our buildings are constructed from. It's certainly unfamiliar. But I think there is more to the differences than just construction materials. What is this place again? This is the Lord Chief Justice's office, Naruhodo-san, in the Supreme Court of Great Britain. The Lord Chief Justice. We had instructions to report here at this time, if circumstances were different. We were supposed to let the Lord Chief Justice know that we had arrived from Japan. But Kazuma can't. No. So instead we are here in a different capacity. As envoys, to report the news of Kazuma-sama's death. Yes, and having delivered his or her message, an envoy's duty is done. So we'd have to return to Japan. If we want to remain here in Great Britain, I have to take Kazuma's place as the law student selected for the study tour. Yes, which means you need to the requisite qualifications as a lawyer, which is what I've been studying for. Here in Great Britain, it is the Lord Chief Justice who appoints lawyers. So that's the second reason why we're here, to have you officially recognized as a lawyer. It's the only way that we'll be able to remain here in London. I hope I'm up to scratch. Ah, good morning. Sorry for keeping you. Oh. I trust you aren't too exhausted after your long voyage from Japan? It seems I'm 1 hour, 12 minutes and 47 seconds late. My apologies. More than 1 hour late? Oh, no, don't mention it. We're never happier than when we're standing around with nothing much to do. That's not an argument in your favor to get yourself hired. How fortunate. So introductions. I am Male Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of the British Empire. Why does he look like evil bad guy man? Huh, and I feel like a little mouse under an elephant's foot. Come on, Mr. Naruhodo, don't be a mouse. Oh, it's an honor to meet you, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart. I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London, the capital of our glorious British Empire. Yes, thank you. Can I examine the place before I talk to him? Just look at all the naughty books packed together on these shelves. They go from floor to ceiling. And they're all books that you couldn't hope to come by in Japan. It's like a dream. Yes, a very bad dream. They're not all about British law either. There are books about the judicial systems of other Western nations. France, Germany, Spain, Holland. What about Russia? What do you ask? I was wondering about asking the Lord Chief Justice how you say wardrobe in Russian. What do you think? I think perhaps it's a thought best abandoned. Look at these menacing metal giants facing each other across the room. I believe they're suits of armor. Oh, right. I thought maybe they were like the lion dogs we have in Japan guarding the shrine gates. No, not at all. In fact, in Europe, suits of armor like these are always possessed by evil spirits, you know? And they roam around in the middle of the night. Really? Is there nothing you don't know, Mr. Sato? This book tells me everything I need to know about everything. If you're ever unsure, just ask. Where did she get that incredible tome? Well, it doesn't matter if you look at the books on the left or the right. I guess it would be the same description. Is this some kind of clock? Actually, I think we might be inside some sort of giant clock, but those gears are larger than anything you'd find on a steam locomotive even. It's eerie. Do you think clocks are some sort of hobby of his? The Lord Chief Justice, I mean. It looks like they're inside Big Ben or something like that. Well, boys do enjoy fiddling around with machines, don't they? I'm not sure you could fiddle with cocks that size. And I'm certain you couldn't call him a boy. Still, it's amazing how little noise the cogs make, considering how large they are. There's actually something quite soothing about their precise rhythm. This must be the Lord Chief Justice's desk. I believe it's made of marble. It looks more like an over-the-top tombstone that's toppled over to me. I think that's your fanciful imagination at work again, Mr. Naruhodo. It feels like everything that's normally made of wood and paper at home is made of bricks and stone here. I know, that's why this place feels so overbearing, I'm sure. Well, that's everything. Apparently. Okay. Armband. An armband I inherited from Kazuma. It identifies the wearer as a defense lawyer throughout the Empire of Japan. Lord Strongheart, may I show you this? To accept this item, issue a receipt, examine it thoroughly, and make a formal statement of my findings. Would require something in the region of 24 seconds of my time. Sorry? Does the item warrant 24 seconds of my time, Mr. Naruhodo? I think they're already well past just the time that you speak about it. Can't use Big Ben because of the MCA probably, so let's call him Large Larry. Let's leave it for now. I don't know, because I do believe that they referenced Big Ben actually in a previous Ace Attorney game. In the first one, there was this clock or something, I believe, that was used as a murder weapon, and when it rang, I believe it made the Big Ben chiming sound, and I do think they referred to it by that name there. So Unless things have changed since then, and now maybe they can't use the name anymore, because these things change over time, so you never know, I suppose. So, what are your impressions of our capital so far? How do you like London? Oh, help! I've been so nervous ever since I got here that I can't remember a single thing about the city. It's simply splendid, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh. We had a wonderful view of some of London's streets from the carriage on the way here from the station. Everything is so impressive and grand. I must say I'm almost lost for words. I'm glad to hear you like it. The city boasts tramways, piped water and gas, even cables supplying electricity. We spearhead every revolutionary new technology in the world. Every visitor to London is astounded. Oh yes, astounded is the word. Thanks for saving me there, Susanto-san. And everyone seems so jolly and full of vigor. Yes, there's much excitement about the upcoming great exhibition we will be hosting here in London. Great exhibition? Cultural and technological achievements from around the globe are to be exhibited here in our great city. Like a... how'd you call that again? Universal fair, or however you call that. It will be the greatest spectacle of its kind in history, and will make Paris's World Fair, the World Fair, yeah. I guess that's how you would call it in English. It will make Paris's World Fair look like a toy shop. Gosh, I can hardly imagine how magnificent it's going to be. Great Britain's capital city is nothing but magnificent. London is the center of the modern world, even if you do say so yourself. The sun will never set on our great empire. Perhaps it is fate that in these progressive times we welcome visitors from the land of the rising sun. Lord Chief Justice, I think you were expecting a student of law for this study tour, weren't you? Absolutely. Mr. Kazuma Asogi, if my memory serves. That's right. The British government has already been telegraphed a full report on the situation. I understand the young man lost his life aboard the steamship bound for our shores. That's amazing. The news reached him before we even arrived. My country naturally extends its deepest condolences to yours. Oh, thank you. And you honored disappointment specifically to inform me of the news? Yes. We are here in the capacity of envoys from Japan to report the sad news in person. They tell me you Japanese are a people of protocol and courtesy, and I see that it's true. And it is with some regret that I must inform you that the death of the young lawyer means the study tour arrangement can no longer proceed. If you would just hear us out, Lord Strongheart. What do you have to say, madam? It's about the study tour. Mr. Naruhodo here would like to make a proposal. Would he now? Well, Mr. Naruhodo, this is it then, the moment of truth. The thing is, Lord Justice, Lord Strongheart, I was wondering if perhaps you would consider allowing the study tour to go ahead. Don't misunderstand me, Britain would ideally like to see the tour go ahead, but without a lawyer from your country, there's nothing to be done. Well, in that case, what if there was someone else? Another lawyer from Japan, I mean. Is there something I don't know? Only a single lawyer was invited to Great Britain from your country, and that was Mr. Asogi, at least that is what I've been led to understand. Well, the thing is, this really isn't going well at all. I just can't seem to find the right words to say to this man. Mr. Naruhodo, I could ruin things here if I'm not careful. What am I going to say? If there is someone else here from Japan who could be described as a lawyer, it's... Mr. Sato. Actually, there's no one. It's me. I'm curious what would happen if I'd said something else. It can probably only be... Yes, Mr. Sato. An unusual introduction, but I presume you mean this charming lady beside you. You're a lawyer, are you? That look she's giving me. After all the days of hard work she put in to help me study, I can't let her down now. I think that's quite enough joking, don't you, Lord Strongheart? My real answer is, it's me. I can't do it. Okay. Is that so? I mean, I don't actually have any qualifications as such, but no qualifications, you say, and yet you still claim to be a lawyer? I have acted as a lawyer in court before, only once, as it happens. And I had Kazuma to help me, and I was the accused, but glossing over the details. I've been spending every spare moment on the journey here to Great Britain studying. I've learned all about British law and court proceedings while I was on board the SS Buria. The voyage from Japan is some 50 days, I believe. Not that what you might call a full education. To become a qualified lawyer here in Britain, not only do you need a university degree in law, you must also complete several years of training. I realize it's far too short a period of time, but I can't just go back to Japan. Kazuma, Mr. Asogi's journey had only just begun. Coming here on this study tour was all he thought about. I have to carry on and do everything he planned to do. I know it must sound like I have an overly inflated opinion of myself, but I would do anything to prove that I have what it takes. Any test you care to set me. Just one chance, that's all I'm asking for. Please. 31 seconds. Sorry? Your opening statement there, Mr. Naruhodo. It was 31 seconds long. Not too brief, not too protracted. A perfectly judged appeal, I would say. Which is a skill that would stand you in good stead as a lawyer. Stead, I guess you say. Oh, thanks. So, you're willing to put those words to trial, are you? Well, I'm all for entertainment. Huh? But let me ask you one thing first, sir. Yes! You say you intend to do everything Mr. Asogi planned to do. Are you firmly set on that path? Well, yes, that's my intention. I see. Am I imagining things? Or did his expression just alter a fraction there all of a sudden? Very well. You have your wish. I'll give you a chance. A test to become a specially certified lawyer. Whether you pass or fail is entirely down to you. Really? What is this test, then? So, what form will the test take exactly? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you consider the role of a lawyer to be? Well, defending people, of course. Well said. So, let's have you defend someone. Huh? Your timing is perfect, in fact. There's an apt trial about to begin later today. No advocate has been appointed for the defense as yet, so this would be welcome news. Today? Straight away? If you manage to secure a verdict of not guilty, you'll have passed my test. What could be simpler? How do I get myself into these situations? Well, could I ask, what sort of trial is it, Lord Strongheart? Yes, good question. I remember. It's a murder trial. A murder? An extremely simple case, I understand. You really can't lose. That's easy to say. But I should mention, just in case, if the defendant is found guilty, he will of course be sentenced to capital punishment. Capital punishment? He'll be put to death? Here in Great Britain, murderers are sent to the gallows without exception. Presumably you read that much in your short sea-based introduction to British law. We can't possibly agree to such a test. We would be toying with a man's life. I am the Lord Chief Justice, and I've decided it's acceptable. But you can't do that, can you? There's no need to overcomplicate this. All you have to do is ensure that you don't lose. So the defendant may live or die depending on how well I perform in court. If I lose, he'll be hanged. Mr. Naruhodo, you've come to me claiming to be a lawyer. Where does he think he is? In the John Woo movie? with the doves flying in the background. Mr. Naruhodo, you've come to me claiming to be a lawyer. If you want me to take you seriously, you need to prove you're willing to do a lawyer's job. And you say you intend to see through the will of your compatriot, Mr. Hasogi. I would like to understand just how far you're willing to go in order to make that happen. He's testing my resolve. What's the matter? You've fallen silent. I'm sorry, but time is pressing. The trial begins shortly. I need an answer from you now. What's it to be? What do I say? Do I agree to this absurd test? Well, is there really any choice? Alright then, if I have to give you a decision now, my answer is... I can't do it! I can't get the words out! 15 seconds. Oh boy. Should have saved and said you wouldn't do it. Yeah. Oh man, that was so itchy. And it's still itchy, as a matter of fact. Your decision making needs work if you want to be a lawyer. That was too slow. So, it's as I suspected, is it? Sorry? Oh, come on. You have noble intentions but lack the resolve to see them through. Test is cancelled. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, I was gonna say yes. Go and acquire your ticket for passage back to the east tomorrow. This conversation is over. Yes, Lord Strongheart. Wait, what? I wanted to say yes. Thank you for offering me a chance. Mr. Naruhodo. I'm sorry, Mr. Sato, but what could I do? Rip, game's over. It's alright, I understand. You do? It's not an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances, but resolve has absolutely nothing to do with it. What are you trying to say, madam? I think what Mr. Sato means is that no matter how badly I'd like to be recognized as a lawyer and stay here in Great Britain, to risk another man's life by treating his one and only chance at a trial so trivially would be utterly unforgivable, and I feel exactly the same way. I'm sure the defendant won't see this trial as a test, as some kind of experiment. A lawyer may fight for his clients in court day after day, but for each one of those clients, the particular day they stand in the dock may be the only chance they have to fight to prove their innocence. No, I was wrong. I'm not qualified to do that job yet. I'm sorry for wasting your precious time. Lord Chief Justice. Wait, Mr. Naruhodo. Was there something else? It's approximately 20 minutes by carriage to the Old Bailey from here. Ah yeah, that's the Court of Justice that they blow up in V for Vendetta. I remember that much at least. If you leave immediately, you should still be there in time. But I just said that. I was quite serious in what I told you. The defendant in this case has literally no one to advocate for him. What? At this point, he can't hope to find someone to represent him. The trial will begin without a defense. And if that happens, there is only one possible outcome. he will receive the most severe sentence the judge can pass down. But that's awful. But that is the truth. Why does it have to be like this? Please don't expect an answer to every question. The cold, hard truth of the matter is that there is only one person now with a chance to save this man from a very miserable end. And that is you. I'm really his only hope. So, what do you say now, madam? Me? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart? You said it wasn't an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. And I agree, but in my estimation, it is purely and simply a matter of resolve. Oh. Our time is up here. I have a meeting to attend. I must leave in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. So, venture into our great city and enjoy yourselves. Okay. He's gone. The Old Bailey. If we're going to do this, Mr. Naruhodo, we must leave at once. Before we leave, can you have a look at this? Mr. Sato, can I just ask you something? Careful! From this position, I can perform a Susanto takedown in an instant. I know, Mr. Naruhodo, you heard Lord Strongheart. The trial starts imminently. If I need to throw you, I will. You know, you could just say, I think we should hurry to the courtroom. If you need to ask me anything, it had better wait until we're at the Old Bailey. Mr. Sato, can I just ask you something? Okay. Oh, okay. Asking her, trying to ask her something results in the same thing. Okay. London's highest criminal court with an illustrious past. The Old Bailey, this is where I'm to take my test and prove my worthiness as a lawyer. Oh, thank goodness we're in time. There's still 15 minutes until the trial begins. I never knew a horse-drawn carriage could go so fast. I thought my teeth were going to rattle loose. Did you hear what I said to the driver when we climbed aboard? Get us to our destinations in 5 minutes, this driver, and there's a guinea in it for you. It's one of my favorite lines from the Sherlock Holmes stories, and it worked quite perfectly. I'm not sure why you're so pleased. I thought we were going to die, and we had to pay gold for the privilege. Well, at least we arrived here before the trial started. Yes, I suppose there's that. Anyway, I don't understand it. The court clerk said the defendant should be here, but there's no sign of him at all. So this is the Old Bailey. Even this room for defendants to wait in is grand. Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm feeling tense, that's all. This place gives me the same sense of foreboding that I remember from the Supreme Court in Japan. An oppressive air, almost as if the building itself is going to crush whoever is about to be sentenced. It feels like only yesterday that I was the one about to be crushed. Yes, whoever the man you're to defend is, I imagine he's feeling very alone at this moment. Top of the morning to you, madam, sir. What are yous doing following me here? Things are fair desperate, are they? Sorry? Would you look at those expressionless faces? From the East, are yous? We're from Japan, yes. Ah, Japan, is it? Right, say no more. So, how much do yous need? No, we're just here because... No need to explain, fella. I've been there myself, so I have. No place to go, nothing to eat, barely a penny to your name, and all while in a strange faraway land. Well, actually, we haven't found a place to stay yet, no. 'Tis grand, 'tis grand. Let me start by giving yous 1,000 guineas. Say nothing now. 1,000 guineas? Please, Mr. Sato, you don't have to shout. But 1,000 guineas is enough to build an entire mansion in the most prestigious area of Tokyo. What? This nothing to me at all. I like to ensure I have sufficient funds to weather a rainy day, you see. I have enough wealth to buy the city of London 2 or 3 times over. Could that much rain even fall in one day? In London, perhaps, yeah. Well, even so, we couldn't possibly accept such a large sum of money. That hit me in the eye. Don't get me wrong, fella. I'm not giving it to ya. I'm not giving ya no strings attached. I'll be wanting you to do something for me. Oh, to be honest, this is a little embarrassing. The trial that's about to begin, you see, is for me good self here. I'll be in the dock. So now, what I want you to do is come along with me and stand there beside me. Officially, you'd be my lawyer, but that's just a little detail now. Oh, well, the thing is, don't worry about a thing. All you have to do is stand up there next to me, nothing more. Otherwise, you see, the trial is going to start without me having any kind of representation at all. So it was true. The Lord Chief Justice wasn't just making it all up. I'm terribly sorry to have to ask, but does that mean you're the defendant in this trial? Bluster and blazes, do yous not know who I am? Me, one of London's biggest names. No, sorry, we've only just arrived in the city, you see. I see. I suppose it isn't altogether impossible. Well, just next to Hyde Park, there in the center of London is another beautiful park. Sorry, a park? What? It is called Magilded Park, full of blossoming flowers in the spring and singing birds and whatnot. I donated it to the city, so I did. An entire park in central London? A city of smiles, that's my vision for London. There's nothing Magnus McGilded wouldn't do for the city and its queer old people. That's amazing. I mean, really extraordinary. Ah, but now they've the gall to say I'm a good-for-nothing criminal. Me, Magnus McGilded. What is the matter with the London police, I ask you? Alright, don't pass out. Mr. Naruhodo? Perhaps now would be a good time to introduce ourselves while the gentleman catches his breath. Good idea. Mr. McGilded, the thing is, we're actually here in London to study British law. We're law students on a study tour from Japan, you see. So, if you don't have a lawyer for the trial yet, and you'd be happy to put yourself in our hands, we'll do our best. What was I after saying? What was I after saying, you daft idiot? Idiot. I've given you 1,000 guineas to stand up there next to me, haven't I? Well, yes, but I wasn't really offering to just stand up there next to you. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. Sorry? I know what you're thinking. This Chancellor of a fella claims to have more money than the Queen, but if that's true, why the blazes can't he hire the finest lawyer in all of England? Because he did it! That's the only explanation. Well... Not at all, although it is a little strange to be honest. Why you don't have a lawyer, I mean? That would be the fault of the Reaper. Sorry? Did he just say Reaper? Aye, the Grim Reaper of the Bailey, Lord Baroque Van Zeeks. He's the prosecutor. The prosecutor is the Grim Reaper? When Van Zeeks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused the sacrificial lambs. And to this day, in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. What? So it's reached a desperate situation, where there's no one willing to stand in defense against the fella at all. You could say he's a living legend of the Old Bailey. Goodness, Lord Baroque Van Zeeks. You must be an exceptionally talented prosecutor then. Talented isn't the word you're looking for, madam. It's cursed. Cursed? What on earth? The defendant is summoned, and his counsel. Please make your way into the courtroom. The trial is about to begin. His counsel, that would be me. Oh, 'tis time. Well then, fella, don't let me down. But I don't know anything about the case. You haven't told me what happened. Until you showed your face here, I'd made up me mind, so I had. Sorry? I'd decided I'd have to defend myself in there. How would that have worked? But then you made an appearance, a student of law, wouldn't you know? This no accident, I can assure you of that. This fate. So don't get cold feet now, please. I literally know nothing about the case or about this man who stands accused. In fact, the only thing I do know is that I can't just turn my back on him. Mr. Naruhodo, the man has no one. He'll have to stand alone in that courtroom, armed with nothing to defend himself. Yes, something that Kazuma would never have allowed to happen. Counsel for the defense, what are you doing? If you're late for the start of the trial, you will lose your right to stand. I'll be right there. It's happening then. My first trial in a British court. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because I have no idea how I'm going to manage this. So, this is the highest court in Great Britain. The Old Bailey. The centuries of history in this place is palpable, isn't it? It's so different to the Supreme Court in Japan. It feels both imposing and serene at the same time. The atmosphere almost makes words redundant. Whatever the country, determining a person's guilt or innocence is always a solemn affair. May I say something, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, yes, what? Your eyes look ready to pop out of your head again. I know, but I just can't help it. That Grim Reaper guy, he looks like a vampire. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here today to determine the guilt or innocence of Mr. Magnus MacGilded. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared. That must be the Reaper of the Bailey. Bruh, is that fucking Hubert from Fire Emblem Three Houses? Actually, yeah, come to think of it, it could be. I guess Hubert also does look like a vampire, in a way. He's so handsome. He really does look fully prepared to dispatch his next poor victim to the underworld. Counsel for the defense, you appear to be Eastern. Do you speak English? Oh, yes, of course, sorry. But he asked if the defense was ready. And I couldn't be further from ready if I tried. He even has the cravat around his neck, just like Hubert. It's him, I tell ya. Those eyes please me, Nipponese. They shroud your fear, your doubt, your trepidation. I love this dude. They run wild, clinging to some phantom notion of courage. The quintessential look of a sacrificial lamb. Half expecting this dude to use dark magic. Nosferatu! A cold shiver just ran down my spine all the way to the tips of my toes. Now, Mr. MacGilded. Yes, my lord. You stand accused of murder, a capital offense. You could be sent to the gallows if found guilty. Are you quite sure you wish to entrust your defense to this foreigner? As I have always said, my lord, this is a grand thing to give opportunities to the young. Even if the fella is a student from some little island off in the Far East, it is not the British way to ignore the dangers to yourself and give those less fortunate a fair chance. I'd like to think that acts of chivalry do the Great Britain Empire proud. Listen to Mr. MacGilded, what a fine gentleman London has in him. Did you hear that he donated £5,000 to the government the other day? Mother, please, may we go play in the MacGilded Park? Seems as though everyone in the public gallery is firmly behind Mr. MacGilded. That's definitely welcome news, and he certainly has a way with words. I'm surprised he couldn't convince anyone to defend him. Eloquently put, Mr. MacGilded, and most laudable sentiments. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm sure I need hardly remind you that you 6 members of the public have been selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed? There's literally Jack the Ripper in the jury. I mean, with his knife like that? No, because Jack the Ripper, it was a hook, I think, that he used, no? The old granny on the right, she's knitting something. That second guy from the right has a horseshoe tying his cape. Some characters they are. And I guess the 1/3 from the right, she has a typewriter of some kind or something. You 6 members of the public have been selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed? Yes, my lord. If the task is to send rotters to the gallows where they belong, I'm more than ready. At the manor, his lordship always says we should dispose of rubbish promptly. Naturally, I agree. Ha! Any criminals here will soon be wishing they never set eyes on me. I feel a chill. He reminds me of a guy that is in Metropolis, an anime movie. A guy that has a little mustache like that. Oh, don't mind me, my dears. I'll just be getting on with my knitting. Must finish these mitts for my grandson. Mr. Naruhodo, those people are the jury. Yes, that's something we don't have in Japan yet. That's right. I've only ever read about it. But here in Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors. The judge passes sentence according to the law, but the jurors determine guilt based on common sense. So the defendant is ultimately judged from 2 completely different points of view. But how exactly do the jurors give their verdict? That I don't know, but I'm sure it will become clear as the trial progresses. Yes. Prosecutor Van Zeeks. My lord, it's been a number of years since we've seen you here in the courtroom. I thought you'd renounced your fame. I am known as the Reaper of the Bailey, my lord. Infamy rather than fame, I would say. But yes, 5 years have passed since I last spread my wings in this capacity. Yeah, you vampire. You were a bat at some point, weren't you? So what brings you back? Is there some change of circumstance of which the court should be aware? I leave that to your imagination, my lord. So the Reaper has been out of action for 5 years? Why did he have to choose today of all days to make a comeback? Don't lose heart, Mr. Naruhodo. As you wish, sir. The court nevertheless welcomes your return. Now then, opening statements, I think. A summary of the case, if you please. Certainly, my lord. As your lordship is aware, this is a case of overwhelming simplicity. We must be the only ones in here who aren't aware. The incident took place in the late evening, 3 days past. The hour was some minutes after 10. The victim was a maker of building bricks known in the community as Thrice Fired Mason. Sorry, thrice? He was a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible. The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus in service on the streets of London at the time. A dagger that had been thrust into the victim's abdomen is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Here is the autopsy report from the investigating medical officer at Scotland Yard. Thank you, counsel. I shall accept that and the photograph as evidence. The autopsy report has been entered into the court record. The photograph of the crime scene has been entered into the court record. Let me have a look at this. Okay, age 54, thrice fired mason, male, brickmaker, time and cause of death, 15th of February, 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Between those times, I guess. Stabbed once in the abdomen with a knife whilst journeying in an omnibus. Died due to internal hemorrhaging resulting from the trauma. For someone stabbed in the belly, he doesn't seem to have bled a lot. Also, there's a button missing, I notice, from his, what is it, his vest? What else? Didn't lose his glasses. The knife in his abdomen is clearly visible, but his face is partly obscured by the view by an old crooked hat. He lived in the East End. Didn't look like much of a struggle, yeah, also. I doubt most people want to sit there and get stabbed willingly. The prosecution wishes to submit these as well. And these are... Good lord! Is that blood, counsel? Yes, my lord. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. These gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested. What? Mr. McGilded's glove had blood on them? Yes, I would accept these as evidence as well. The defendant's leather gloves have been entered into the court record, yeah. The leather gloves the defendant was wearing at the time of the incident. There is a blood stain on the right glove. Okay, are we gonna learn that he's a lefty or something? How did I get into this? I'm backed into a corner before I've even started. Continuing. According to the driver of the omnibus, there were only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time. Only 2? Obviously one of those passengers was the deceased brickmaker, Mr. Mason. Is a brickmaker and his name is Mason? The other was the accused, Magnus McGilded. Well, rather damning circumstances to say the least. Defendant, what say you? Well, of course, I have no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilded. To be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening, but whenever I'm in a carriage, I'm taken with a fierce tiredness and I always succumb to it. Are you claiming to have been asleep? It is the motion of the carriage, my lord, Lilton, so it is. And when I opened my eyes again, 'twas a desperate sight before me, the body of a man I'd never laid eyes on before in my life. Or in me life. Now I ask yous what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fella bleeding from his stomach. I wasn't about to start worrying about me gloves, now was I? I reached out to give the man a hand. So the blood got onto the gloves then, after the man had been killed. Unfortunately, that statement of the driver's is only the beginning. That's not all of it. there were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed. Odar! 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 When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage, and there were witnesses to the crime. This is not just a case of compelling evidence. What, the carriage wasn't moving then? It's the nail in the coffin for the accused. Thank you, counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we will hear testimony from these witnesses first of all. Your wish is my command. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in at once. Witnesses, your names and occupation. My name is what everyone calls me, Beppo. I drive an omnibus in the East End. Bruce Fairplay, I'm a banker in the city. My name's First, Lady First. Ladies first? I make hats for gents. Let's begin by confirming the facts. 3 days ago, at a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, all of you present in the stands were in an omnibus and witness to the aforementioned incident. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Quite right. Yes, sir, that's right, sir. Very well then, let's proceed to your formal testimonies, please. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had a few customers. I remember it well. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. Couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, and then I saw it too. Unambiguous testimony, I must say. Exactly, my lord. These men witnessed the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes. I'd like to ask a question, if I may. Yes, counsel? Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Why not? Well, the incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it? As has been clearly stated from the outset, yes. Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of the moving carriage. How quaint. I'd read that civilization in the Eastern Island nations was a good century behind our own. But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses? Huh? Tell me, my Nipponese friend, have you even traveled in an omnibus? Yeah, that sounded racist, didn't it? Well, no, we only arrived in London this morning. No matter, I've arranged for us all to see for ourselves the actual scene of the crime, that is. What do you mean? The actual scene? How? A carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you understand that much. Yes. The omnibus in which this bloody crime took place is here today in this very building. Here? What? The entire carriage? Bailiff! Bring forth the stricken omnibus. So that's an omnibus. The omnibus. Can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing. Well, when you see the size of the door, yeah, it's a little surprise, I suppose. As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers. Four passengers seated inside in the enclosed cabin, and another 4 on the rooftop deck above. Every Londoner knows that the best views of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top of an omnibus. And I should point out to our foreign guests that there is a skylight in the roof allowing a view of the interior from the seats above. Ah, a skylight. Oh! The penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats on this omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness this grim incident. Through the skylight. Explained like that? Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, counsel, this is a first. In all my years behind the bench, I've never experienced the crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. That is the prosecution's wish. Very well, I see no reason why not. This omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence. Can't believe it, the entire crime scene entered as evidence. Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary. Could help myself a lot by giving that omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here. Phoenix Wright Omnibus is written on the back. I can't find anything out of place. So this is the roof deck of the omnibus. Oh, you must have a wonderful view of London streets from up here. So people sit all the way up here on bitter winter nights with the cold air rushing past them. And they have to pay money to do so. I can't imagine how cold it must feel. That just made me think of something horrible. Can you imagine being dragged around the city in the freezing cold as a punishment? Perhaps that is the real price you pay to stay out late. You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin. So I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see quite clearly. That's not good for us. There's another bench. I guess this is where the driver sits. So this is the roof deck of the omnibus. So people sit all the way up here on bitter winter nights. And they have to pay money to do so? Okay. Yeah. I've already been there. Also, yeah, maybe I should have a look at the gloves. Maybe the fact that the blood is on the palm of the hand instead of on the back would be significant, because if you're holding a knife and you're stabbing someone from the front like this, unless he was holding the knife the other way around, like sitting right next to him and then stabbing him in the stomach while sitting next to him, yeah, I guess that may make sense. This is definitely blood, isn't it? Not the most pleasant sight to be confronted with on our first day in London. Well, nothing will come of grumbling now, no. By the way, is Mr. McGilden right-handed? Yes, I believe so. He was toying with a coin in his right hand a little earlier. Ah, pity. If only he'd been left-handed. I think blood on either glove would be fairly incriminating, really. Let us continue with proceedings then. Your cross-examination, counsel. Afraid don't expect this Nipponese trait to understand the intricacies of a British court's cross-examination rights. Alright, my first cross-examination in a British court. Focus, Hirosuke, focus! Okay, it was the last bus of the evening, so I had few customers. I remember it well. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Actually, the more I look at it, the more it seems like the gloves that the driver is wearing are exactly the same as those that were found with blood on them. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged the knife right into his guts. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. Couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus and then I saw it too. Alright, so when it happened, the only two people in the enclosed cabin area were the victim and the defendant. And so help me, 3 whole people witnessed the man I'm trying to defend do the deed. I don't like to be pessimistic, but we do seem to be in a rather difficult situation here. What am I supposed to think here? Is he really innocent? Or could it be... Before we jump to conclusions, our first task should be to gather information. We need to understand the case much better than we do at the moment. Yes, you're absolutely right. Let's listen to those witness statements again. A little more carefully this time. Next to each other inside the bus. And you saw them through the skylight in the roof of the carriage? That's right. When you sit up on the top deck, the window's right there at your feet. There was a lamp on inside, so I had a pretty good view. 2 of them were wearing hats and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. But there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that it was Mr. McGilded. Well, here they both have white gloves. How can you be so sure? Well, how can I put it politely? McGilded is a gentleman of rather small stature. I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else. Well, they don't seem to be reacting in any unusual fashion. Let's not forget that when the vehicle came to a halt, the only people inside the enclosed cabin were the deceased Mr. Mason and Mr. McGilded. There is no room for doubt here. I really wish there was. And out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged the knife right into his guts. Was it really into his guts? Yeah, I guess so, yeah. It's not really the chest area either. It's really in the belly. You actually saw the exact moment it happened? Didn't I already testify to that? Or are fair dinkum hard-working city bankers not considered trustworthy these days? Not those days, not any day. No, I didn't mean that. This is no good, I've really got this back up. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail if that's My lord! Juror number 3, what's the meaning of this? My mind is made up, my lord, completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich, never have. They're always up to something or other that they shouldn't be, every one of them. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. Wait, that's how it works? There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter anyway. That is precisely what I was about to say. As the foreman of the jury, it is my duty to set a good example for my fellow jurors. My. What is happening here? Hold on, I'm not feeling too hot. Let me see. Ah, yes, it seems that's how the members of the jury give their verdicts. With fire? Apparently, yes. White for innocent and black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their minds about the case, one by one, they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice as we saw a moment ago. So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Let's do our very best to make sure that doesn't happen. Now I'm even more worried than I was before. Very well, the court acknowledges the change in the jury stance. Counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination. This is a nightmare. What, does that mean I should have pressed? He stabbed him, you say, and you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you? Yes, that's right, sir. I was up on the roof seats. If I may, Mr. Fairplay, what are you fussicking for now? That last statement appears to have given you pause for a thought. No, it didn't. Okay, you can't pursue for nothing. I just wanted to ask him if that was true, if he can testify to the presence of the other guy, but, By the way, you always seem to be looking to the side one way or another. Do you have some affliction? Not really. He's not really willing to say anything, it seems. Yeah, could he really see something through the skylight? If he has trouble keeping his head straight? It's none of your business anyhow. Alright, so when it happened, the only 2 people in the enclosed cabin area were the victim and the defendant. Okay, yeah, I guess I have to keep pressing on stuff that I haven't pressed yet, I suppose. Yes, I think it was sometime after 10, wasn't it? Oh, yes, sir. That's right, sir. Yes, ever so cold it was, sir. Freezing, in fact. And these 2 dudes had chosen to ride outside the omnibus? And you had 4 passengers on board at the time, is that correct? Yes, that's right, sir. Not all traveling in the same part of the bus, of course, though. No. And there were no other passengers when the incident took place. No one alighted, for example. You're quite right with that, sir. No other passengers like that. No, none. So nobody fled the scene of the crime, then. I have to say the boss insists on it running. He does. Every evening, that last bus of the day. But I do wonder sometimes if it's altogether worthwhile. Yes, sorry to say. What do you mean by that? Well, what with it being so cold and everything, and only making 20 pence on the run, you see. Yes, I spend that much at the pub on the way home just trying to warm up again. So this I already pressed. This I already pressed. This too. This one I haven't yet. What exactly did you see? Oh, well, sir, that would be the passenger, sir. Yes, collapse on the floor he was. Aha! And by the passenger, obviously you are referring to the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. And then the other passenger had that knife in his hand, and like this. By the other passenger, obviously you are referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilded. And then he plunged it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the belly. But how could he have seen it if he only stopped the carriage after they screamed? The chronology of events doesn't make much sense here. My lord, if you'll forgive the interruption. Juror number 2, go on. Mr. McGilded is a pillar of society and a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truth. Wait, what are you about to do? Dispose of the rubbish. Well, this is not good, is it? I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and crime. I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in a position to draw the only logical conclusion. Jeez, I'm screwed. Is that because I'm pressing on stuff that I'm not supposed to press on, or what? Not again. That's 4 out of 6 jury members who proposed a guilty verdict. There are only 2 left. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. We've had it. Every time I press these witnesses for more information, I just make the situation worse. Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at the moment is more information. We're still very much in the dark. I suppose I'll just have to keep pressing the witnesses, knowing that more sparks may well fly. We mustn't give up hope that we'll uncover something that will give us a way to fight back. But, alright, I'll keep trying. Can't give up. But I think I pressed on everything, haven't I? Yeah, could he make out his face with the hat? How could he be sure that it was him? No, okay, that's incorrect. Well, yeah, that's correct. reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts. No, that's not it either. Out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged the knife right into his guts. Or him, maybe. I haven't pressed him yet. You stabbed him, you say, and you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you? Ah, yeah, true. I shifted over to the other character, yeah, so I guess that's why, yeah. Okay. Yes, that's right, sir. I was up on the roof seats. I remember seeing the little gent sitting next to the fellow that was stabbed. Uh-huh. I'd been thinking about the new hat design, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then I happened to look down through the skylight. It was sticking right out from his belly, that huge great knife. A grim sight indeed. Ah, that didn't help me at all. The jury looked like they're even more convinced my client did it than they were before. That appears to have made everyone even more dubious that Mr. McGilded is telling the truth. Okay. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions. Mr. First. Oh, yes, sir. Is this the knife that you saw? No, the knife you saw. Oh, good grief. Yes, that's it. The very one, sir. Is that... Yes, counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like a stake through the heart. That is a blade of considerable size, counsel. It is, and furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M, which seems oddly familiar. Ah, please, no. M for Magnus, perhaps, or McGilded, possibly. Take your pick. It seems this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake. But there are M's everywhere. Yes, like in Mason. This blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. No, this weapon of murder almost certainly belongs to the accused. Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, counsel. A largish knife that was found lodged in the victim's abdomen. Its quality and fancy ornamentation suggests it must be quite valuable. My lord, I wish to speak. Yes, juror number 5. Do I take it that you too? As the master of the London Guild of Coachmen, the idea of a murder being committed in one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. It wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse has bolted, as they say. No, please, just keep an open mind a little longer. Gee up now, Silverblaze, the finish is in sight. Beppo is a long-standing member of the guild, and I trust what the man says. Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind, sir. This is too unkind, sir. Which now means that 5 jurors agreed to condemn this man. Madam Juror number 6. Yes, dear, what can I do for you? You have heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the stand. Oh, yes, I certainly have. Still got my hearing, you know. Then pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leaning? She's not done knitting or whatever it is. Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I'll always go to the park at around this time of day and sit on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. The gentleman donated it to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life. He is always doing wonderful things for the city. That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. Mother, may we go to the McGilded Public Library later and borrow some more books? How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know? What kind of a man Magnus McGilded really is? What kind of a man is he? The philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, sir, and one with the very darkest of souls. What? Stone the crows! McGilded lends money at extortionate rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He is a vulture that preys on the weak. I've never heard any mention of that before. Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madam. So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service? You're not saying that. The victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his creditor was the accused, Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment date for his debts. Good gracious! The brickmaker was destitute, he had lost his house, he had not a shilling with which to repay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him, his life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender Magnus McGilded. I don't believe it. If I might add something briefly, Miss Susanto. You claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded, but where is the evidence to support your claim? Drinking blood? Vampire. Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice in a court of law. Aha, there it is! Lord Van Zeek's hallowed chalice! How can this be considered acceptable? But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself. As a judicial assistant to the defense, I am simply doing my job. What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the Deptorous Ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Oh. Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. Gladly accept this new evidence. Okay, a catalog of people who had borrowed money from the defendant at a high rate of interest includes the victim who owned 20 guineas. Okay, let's have a look at this. Is it a M or is it a W, actually, come to think of it? Could be both. An ornate letter M, undeniably Mr. Magnus McGilded's initial, and it's beautifully gilded too. It must be very valuable, I should think. Ah, what is it? Look at this M. If you turn it upside down, it becomes a W. This could change everything. A W? Yes, this is one of those, you know, turnabout cases, I'm sure of it. It's 2 V's. I'm also interested in the little emblem that's on the hilt. A horse emblem. Could that have belonged to, what's his real name? Beppo, actually. Because that must not be his real name, right? Could that have belonged to, the driver? I'm afraid I don't know at all, but what I am sure of is that this is an M. Oh, well, that idea was quickly quashed. Yeah, that horse emblem there. If you turn it that way. Can't find anything out of place. Oh, come on. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? This portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry. Oh dear, do you really think we ought to look inside? Well, it's not as though we know any of London's gentry personally, isn't it? Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder. I assure you we will not find Mr. Sholm's name inside. Well, let's see what we find. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Ah, goodness! What is it? Look at this! Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually. Bruce Fairplay, the witness testifying at this very moment. Oh yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could be very useful information. Among the defendants' list of debtors is Bruce Fairplay, who would have been due to repay his loan imminently. Is there something else? Nah, nothing new, I think. I think this is all the information I can glean from this. And the accused made quite certain he had ample recompense. Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes. Regrettably, madam, that is the modus operandi of the accused. And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. What, is that it? Is it game over when it happens? Still. Maybe it's all for the best. Oh, wait a minute. Let's think about this a little more before I don't stand for nonsense. What, it's too late when it happens, or what? That was it. The last juror's decision. So you can't even press on the wrong thing? Ah, according to this encyclopedia of British law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here. Ah, the final verdict! It's over then. There's a footnote, though. A footnote. However, the defense... All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decisions. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial by delivering my final verdict. I trust there are no objections. What about the footnote? Miss Susanto, just tell me one thing. Oh, yes, you were in the middle of saying something before. The footnote in your Encyclopedia of British Law, however, the defense... What did it say next? Oh, yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended. Yeah! Get to the part! However, the defense has the right to demand the summation examination of the jurors at this point. Summation? Examination? Idiot! A summation examination? From which century has that tome you have there been resurrected? Ah! Judging from the binding, I would say that book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten, and certainly no longer practiced. But I demand it all the same! So you're out of luck. Oh. What even is it, Mr. Sato? This so-called summation examination. Oh, one moment, and I'll read about it. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understand what it entails? Typical Nipponese. Alright, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand. It seems that under this procedure, we would be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what exactly? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decisions, and it says here that... if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. Make them reverse their decisions? Yes, in times gone by, barristers would use a summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision, but that procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefit, really, so it rather fell out of use. Still, I would like to try. I wonder why. Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age. Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? A summation examination, our last possible option. Do we assert our right to carry it out, or admit defeat? Yeah, let's assert our right. Otherwise, it's over, so, the defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord. London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried. But if it's alright, it's alright. I believe it could prove vital in this trial. The defense's petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with the summation examination. This is madness. Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready? Well, I'm not, there was no mention of this in the letter I received, you see, so... All members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision. On what grounds? You must all justify your decisions and explain why you believe the defendant to be guilty. Well, my lord, you're rather putting us on the spot. This is most irregular. No mention was made of this before. I don't really hold with all this justifying lark. It seems to have thrown the jurors off. It seems none of them have experienced this before. Alright, that's the summation examination. A defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe, it might be the opportunity we've been looking for to turn this trial around. So be it then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court hereby calls upon you to state the grounds on which you find the defendant Magnus MacGillet guilty of this most serious crime. The jurors' contentions. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. Okay. He stuck the chap next to him just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. I have simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far and drawn the logical conclusion. You can trust the guild. Fair fares is our motto. We haven't raised prices above 4 pence for years. Wait, what? The scoundrel stabbing that poor man on the floor. It beggars belief. I'm starting to wish I hadn't pushed for this now. Some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully formed arguments, though, do they? Well, let's see what we can do. We need to get these 6 people to change their minds. I'll have to throw everything I can at them, and use some very persuasive language. Just a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. How do we do that? According to my book, that's not quite how it works. Oh? I thought I was going to have to thaw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about the defendant. Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says. But then, they've reached their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, it could recoil on you. The more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become. Then what on earth am I supposed to do? Oh dear, I'm just citing what I've read about British law, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, I'm sorry. Do you have any idea about how to make this work then? Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your arguments. What do you mean? Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. They may appear to present a united front, but the truth is, they are complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here in the courtroom together. And that's the way to break them down, you mean? Yes, exactly. One of them said 5 pence per passenger, and the other guy said we have never raised our prices beyond 4 pence or something. We must listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says, and see if we can identify any contradictory statements. If we can, we then contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other. I see, so it's contradictions in what 2 or more jurors say that we're looking for. In a way, then, this is similar to a regular cross-examination. Oh, yes, I suppose you're right. Find contradictions in their statements and pit the jurors against one another to break them down. Alright, I might be able to pull this off. No, that's not right. I have to pull this off. Can we start proceedings, counsel? I would ask you to take the stand for this. I'm expecting a clear and concise rebuttal. Yes, my lord. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him. Yeah, that would mean that they had to pay 5 each, and this is in contradiction with this one. Those 2 statements clearly contradict each other. They do? Explain yourself, counsel. Me? Oh dear, what have I said? I swear on Silverblaze's mane and name, I haven't the first idea what you're talking about. According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus on the night in question. And according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20 pence in fares. Quite right, I have those precise details typed neatly here in front of me. And juror number 5 also told us the following: the fare to the omnibus is always 4 pence. That it is, a fair and convenient single price, just the way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts. Why, man, why? 4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication... it would be 16 pence. So there had to be someone else in the carriage, right? That had to pay 4. Or Beppo lied. Or he's a crook, or something to that effect. Exactly, as I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different, by 4 pence in fact. Or precisely 1 person's fare. 1 person's fare? Bruh, is he holding a flask? Yeah, he is. Yes, in other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible there was another passenger we've heard nothing about. Man's just come to court ready to party. This can't be right. The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men, one and all. Trustworthiness is our watchword. The figures your coachman claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is a fallacy. I beg your pardon? Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news will surely spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he lets nefarious characters ride his omnibus. Alright then, how do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end, Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire into the innocent side of the set of scales. Now hold your horses there, coachman. We were all in agreement. Why do you have to go and... Wait till I get my hands on you, Beppo. Arr, this is all very irritating. Begging your pardon, sir, I'm going to do the same. For the love of Mike, not you as well. A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear after all. Hey, Aquilix, you're off again to watch the rest of Case 2? Ah, okay. Okie dokie, Aquilix. Still catching up, so can't be live with me, okie dokie. Yeah, I understand. Hi there, though. Yeah, thank you. Certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters. Oh, really? I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. You did it! If we can manage to change 2 more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. 2 more, actually. There is something else that's bothering me about a couple of their assertions. Then that's where you must strike next. So I need to pit 2 more jurors against each other and show there's another contradiction in their assertions. Exactly, you can do it. Well, the scales of justice have shifted, but they still weigh heavy on the side of guilt. Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination. I'm changing my leaning to innocent. I should like to hear what the slipshod bookkeeper has to say for himself. He stuck the chap next to him just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. Yeah, she says on the floor, and the other guy says something different. Those 2 statements are completely contradictory. What? Explain, counsel. Post haste. Oh, dearie me, I was only knitting a jumper for my other half. What is all this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? We've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3. What? Can't you see that I'm busy here? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Ah, want to test me, do you? It was like this. Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up, just like the prim banker said. Yes, that was Mr. Fairplay's testimony, quite true. Now then, juror number 6. Oh, is that me, is it? What can I do for you, young man? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madam? Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand it, it was like this. He stabbed the poor man after it collapsed on the floor. The coachman said so. Now, don't move. Take a look at these two jurors. He stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. And he stabbed the poor man after it collapsed on the floor. Well, I never. They were stabbing in totally different directions. What? Bless my stitches, what a muddle. What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. Oh, but why? Why the dickens would they lie? I don't know that yet, but what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out, we may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen in all good conscience? Lies, you say? Oh, dearie me. I can't abide people telling lies. The scales! I don't believe it. Wait! Now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him in his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all this? Answer me this, Dark Jinx. Huh? Me? What exactly is the problem? What of it if two witnesses have slightly different recollections of events? What of it? Let's say the Shylock did stab the victim as he was sat next to him on the omnibus, and this young dandy saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor and then the Shylock stabbed him again, and this old lady saw him do it. Well, what's to say it didn't happen like that, hmm? A single stab wound to the abdomen is what the autopsy report says. Who are you calling old? Why I should take this needle to you? Ah, they're ready to kill each other now. But could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the two witnesses see two different moments of the same crime? It's possible. It's true. There's an outside chance of almost anything you care to mention. Exactly the point I've been trying to make. Before you go any further, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, what is it, Mr. Sato? I think you should have a look through the court record. Well, I thought, but no, the coach said that he saw him stab him, because I was thinking to myself, maybe the guy was on the floor and pulling the knife out, and that's what he took for a stab. But no, I guess that's not possible, is it? There isn't even an outside chance of what the juror is saying. How did I miss that? Okay. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman, what is it, you Dark Jinx? Come on, out with it. What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question. What are you talking about, man? How can you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. Okay, the evidence. You want to see it? I say the two witnesses saw two different moments of the same crime. If you say that's out of the question, show me some proof. It looks like the only way I'm going to convince him is to present him with something he can't dismiss. Some irrefutable hard evidence. As you wish. What? I'll give you the proof. Where is the proof? It's out of the question that the two witnesses saw two different moments of the same crime as proven by the autopsy report. This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen only once. Only once? It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely one time. Which means these witnesses can't possibly have seen it happen two different times. Alright, I concede defeat. Wait, that means 4 jurors are now leaning to not guilty. We've done it, Mr. Naruhodo. We've won. Well, won. Okay, hold on a second. He's not found not guilty just yet. What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. But we had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one. And if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this rather sharp blade and shave every last bit of hair of his head. Please tell me he's a barber. Well, in a quite remarkable turn of events, the defense's summation examination has flipped the balance of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to adjudicate, and the trial must continue. I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and witnesses to return to their places, and I call upon all of you to continue to pursue the truth. So, Lord Van Zieks, continue to substantiate the case for the prosecution, if you please. He's gonna need another drink. What's that he has? Does he have a sword or something? To his side? What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets, having savored the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hallowed chalice. It may seem crass to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zieks! Brr, is it cold in here, or is it just me? As your antiquated tome no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during the summation examination, so I honored the deathly silence and listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Your character has a katana, so... Yeah, actually, I think it may be a sword now that I see it, the way it's displayed now. It seems to be a handle with a cover for the hand, actually. Well, no matter. There is nothing so hard to prove as the self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence, after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle. Bring forth the witnesses once more. Oh my. He threw his cape. Witnesses, I trust you heard the summation examination we have just had to endure. Oh yes, sir, that I did, sir. Of course I heard it. Oh yes, sir, I heard it. You, sir, on the end, the coachman. I believe it's Beppo. Yes, sir, my lord, sir. If it transpires that in your previous testimony you were attempting to veil the presence of a 5th passenger on your omnibus, you will be found guilty of perjury. You are advised to bear that in mind, sir. Oh mio Dio. Now then, witnesses, I hereby call on you to testify before the court again. You will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination. Various misgivings. I only carried for 4 passengers that night, I swear, but, well, I, for one, was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. He fiddled this on the fare, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. Oh, yes, he stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so, yes. Counsel, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom 5th passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little cousinage. I'm not sure what that means. Beppo, explain yourself. I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. The Guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare? It's so cold and the last run of the day is halfway half empty. Yeah, he did say that before, actually. You have been dishonest, coachman. I'm sorry. You're a disgrace, Beppo. A disgrace. And your selfish actions have brought dishonor on the entire guild. If I may, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What? 4 passengers at 5 pence each is, yes, 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently. No, that figures. Figures? Get it? It would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please. We've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely. Yeah, we've already established what that is about, right? I, for one, was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. Fiddled us on the fare, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. Someone's full of shit. Yeah, sorry, didn't see that. I tell you, saw Mike Gillett stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. I think so, yes. I think so. Earlier, you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Oh, yes, that's right. You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice pick grip. I suppose I might have, you know, yes, put the cart before the horse, maybe? What's this? Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats on the roof deck. Oh, I expect that was me, sir. Then when I turned around, yes, I saw it through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor and the knife was sticking up out of his midriff. That's right, yes, and the fellow holding the handle was the famous man, yes. So it's along the lines of what I said. He was just maybe examining the body or something. So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all. I really thought that I did, but when I go over it again in my head, no, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I? Nandato? What's that with you? Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Now you listen to me, I know what you're thinking. He didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Heh. Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? No chance. Well, it is a little hard to believe, certainly, because the other guy screamed, and only then he turned, so he couldn't have. It's like what I said before, the chronology doesn't fit. I need candy to keep the saliva flowing. Okay. Well, it is a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through a skylight on the top of an omnibus, that is. Peeping! I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember it as clear as a bottle rat day. Bottle rat? It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that, all right. I'll tell you just how grim it was. Do you think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after that butcher stabbed the man? Not long ago, this trial very nearly came to an end. Somehow we've managed to keep our chances alive here. Can't waste this cross-examination. I have to use it to bring some new facts to light. If you're not careful when you press these witnesses, the danger is that the jury will end up believing something unhelpful as they did before. Maybe, but we can't let the fear of that happening stop us from uncovering important new information. Yes, you're so right. I need to pay careful attention here. I don't want to miss even a flicker of a reaction among the witnesses. Yeah, I just did. I know that, yeah. Okay, hold on. We have a new piece of testimony at the end. No, can I do that? Ah, no, never mind. What, do I press it? Yeah, okay. That was wrong. And since I didn't save before I tried, that would be significantly easier if you would lower your hand. I won't lower my hand until I prove my client's innocence, as long as it's quite quick. Blood-soaked? Well, perhaps soaked is laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Aha. And you saw that from the roof, through the skylight. Well, the skylight's reasonably large, so I had a pretty good view. And there was a lamp on inside the carriage as well, so I'm quite sure of what I saw. Or maybe I should show the gloves? Yeah, I know. Hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go one more time through it all. Okay, let me go back. Does he say something about the hands specifically? Those blood-soaked hands after that butcher stabbed the man. Yeah, okay. The gloves, then. Okay, blood-soaked hands. Well, I admit that soaked might be laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there, but, as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. Arrgh. In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. Arrgh, but no, that can't be right. So you're the liar here, then. Grr. That's right, you were quite clear about it. You said you said it was both hands. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth? It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. He had motive. He owed money to the guy. Yes, it wasn't both hands. It was only one, but the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused. No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands, which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Why? I'm a city banker, for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate. Stop using words I don't know, right? Prevaricate? What does that mean? He's claiming to have no reason to lie. Lie? That's what it means? But is that really the case? Mr. Naruhodo, if we had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying, it could turn the tide in this trial completely. Something to show this man has a compelling reason to lie in his testimony? Yeah. There is evidence. Yeah, like, what the fuck does society mean anyway? True. I wonder. I have evidence. My lord, yes, counsel? The defense is ready to present evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony. Garr! Very well, I hereby call on the defense to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates the motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court. This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused's extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Oh, what? His wig is lopsided now. Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? Yeah, banker. No, well, it's barely worthy of being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas, not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case? These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist. Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw in a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant? Grr, grr. Horda, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes, my lord. Let me ask you again. And be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Grrr. Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim? Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. Alright, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on McGilded's hands, both of them. And yet only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained. So you keep saying. I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir? Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself as it happens. Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just one. It was someone else. It was a fifth person. It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yarks! Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last. What is it, kitty? What is it, kitty? What is it? Yes, I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. Witness testimony. What the witnesses really saw. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them. I didn't actually see anything myself, no, not until I heard that scream. Anyway, the fact remains there can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we would all have seen. We all would have seen, sorry. Well, lo and behold, in truth of facts, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment the crime was perpetrated. Cat! I apologize, my lord, but honestly, there was no one else inside that carriage and the man's hands were covered in blood. Grr, that much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it. That's really not what testimony is about. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witnesses' accounts. In other words, there is no substantial nor significant change in the facts of the case. Very well, your cross-examination, please, counsel. Yes, my lord. I don't doubt it, just that the assailant was not my client anyway. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters. Yeah, I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them. What is it, kitty? What is it? Well, come here then. Come. Come here. Lie down. Right. I didn't actually see anything myself, no, not until I heard that scream. Anyway, the fact remains there can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we all would have seen. Crap, yeah. I think it's something to do with there being someone else, really. It's a hugely significant change in the facts of the case, and there's something else that occurred to me whilst listening to the witnesses' latest testimony. Two of them are recounting what they saw through the skylight in the omnibus roof. Was there a blind spot? I know it's a large window and certainly affords a good view of the inside, but, well, I think perhaps we ought to confirm what they're saying with our own eyes as much as possible. I mean that we can examine the evidence firsthand. The omnibus is here in the courtroom after all. That's a good idea. And we can consider the witnesses' statements while we're looking around. Okay, yeah, we're back to the testimony. And hold on. Hey, isn't that a latch on it? Like it can be opened? You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. There's a lamp inside, so I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see quite clearly. It's not good for us. What about the latch here? That thing here, specifically. No, it counts as part of the skylight, so they will not acknowledge the presence of that thing. I can't look inside, sadly. Okay, that's what I want to press on. Mata! And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight on the roof of the omnibus. That's right. It was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over. Oh yes, I remember. I was shivering. It was so bitter. Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on a roof deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh, why not? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. It was locked? That's right, and it's a public bus service for pity's sake. That's not what I call fair play. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up to the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm cabin below. Well, I can assure you I wasn't just looking down, I was glaring long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed. Unequivocal, I would say. I'm not sure about these two witnesses. Could they really have seen everything inside the cabin through the skylight? They might not have been able to. I think. That's the only logical explanation anyway. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You were riding this omnibus and witnessed the events in the cabin through the skylight and the floor. You finished episode 2 now? Ah, okay, Qualix. You're just skimming through it? Witnessed the events in the cabin through the skylight and the floor on the upper deck, is that right? That's right, yes. Man, so sad that we can't have more Azuma, yeah. It's same thing as Mia, I guess, but although Mia comes back through channeling through her sister's body, or sister and cousin's body, I guess. It was just the final part that was missing. Ah, okay. There is a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. What? By golly, really? Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure. Yeah, if Society Guy didn't point it out to me, I wouldn't have been able to know. Possibility cannot be denied. It's proving good. I mean, this whole new system of the balance having to be tilted one way or another by the jurors to determine whether the defendant is guilty or not, I think that's interesting. At the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. Yari. Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponese friend. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here in the flesh. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. You will identify the area on this cross-sectional plan of the omnibus. Where exactly in the omnibus are you suggesting this potential extra passengers could have been situated? We're in the UK now, yeah. Yeah, we are. Here. I mean, if the guys were sitting here, looking down through the skylight, they would have been able to see who was sitting on this bench, but not on this one. Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other. Which means the visible part of the cabin which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight is as I've drawn here. Ah, that's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite the one on which the victim and his attacker were sitting is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible that these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it. Idiotic! It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. So, you studied law in 30 days? Well, not quite, I suppose. But he asked to be given a chance to prove that he can be a lawyer. And the Supreme Court Lord of the Court of Justice, or whatever his name is. What was his name again? Yeah, this guy, the Lord Chief Justice, who wields absolute authority in judicial matters, including the appointment of lawyers. He's a thoroughly intimidating man, yeah. Told him, well, if you can't defend this guy who no one else will defend, and get a not guilty verdict, then you will be allowed to stay in England. Otherwise, he has to go back to Japan. Van Zieks sounds Dutch. Yeah, actually, yeah, it does. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. Or actually, hold on a minute. A prosecutor known as the Reaper of the Bailey. Supposedly, the souls of those he prosecutes are eternally damned one way or another. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude. Can you, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, not at present, no. I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? 32 is very young for a nowadays standard. Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses on the roof deck? Do I have an inkling? Or do I not have an inkling? Huh. Well, it doesn't seem to me like it would be anyone that I have in my list here. So, but from what we've seen before, though, of the two gentlemen that they could see, they were both wearing white gloves, and he wasn't. So maybe McGilded was sitting there, and the person that they saw was actually not him. I have an inkling. I understand, my lord. The defense would like to put forward a name. He has a new chalice. You are a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. I feel like people finishing law and doing the lawyer's exam with 30 or so won't be able to stand in court just right afterwards. A toast to hard lessons not yet learned. Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. This could be it. This could be the chance I've been waiting for to turn the trial in my favor. On that night, on the night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from view was... What is it? Is it the 1800s or something? Yeah. I suppose so. The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witnesses on the roof deck failed to see as to have been Mr. Magnus McGillet. McGillet? True hat. True that. What are you talking about, counsel? That's the name of the defendant. If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hallowed chalice, do forgive the discourtesy. What is a man? I mean, in the original Ace Attorney games, we have 18-year-old prodigies and stuff like that. Yeah, true. And this one is not even 18, I think, no? I don't have his profile in there, I guess. Or he is just 18 or something. I will take my leave again as I haven't started this episode 3 yet. Okie dokie. No problem. Do catch up. People talk of those tiny island nations in the Far East as having a learning and culture of their own, but I see they use the terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? See you around and thanks for the VODs. Yeah, no problem. No problem, Quillix. Enjoy it. Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Damn, Dracula being a savage. Multiple witnesses have attested to the fact. It's the very premise on which this case is built. But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. What inconsistency, counsel? The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claimed that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim. Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the gory remains. The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yes, their testimony remains unchanged. Exactly, they both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on the passenger's hands, both of them. And who was this third party? Obviously, the true culprit. Extraordinary. Ordar, Ordar, Ordar. Come. Ow. What exactly are you postulating? The defense's postulation is just that, nothing more than conjecture. The witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused. But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes, the tops of their heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them, though. Yes, that's right. Both gents were most certainly had it. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sirs. And what particular styles of hat did the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First? Come here. I'm afraid I don't remember. And you call yourself a hatter? The style of hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin. How can you be sure? Because if there had been, the accused, Mr. McGilded, would undoubtedly have offered to depose the fact. Unless that is, you are proposing an even more preposterous explanation. That the accused failed even to notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled. He's right. If there was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus, it's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded would have been unaware of it. Ordar! He was asleep, though. Yeah, that's what he said anyway. There is clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused, Mr. McGilded, to the stand. Well, what say you, counsel? The prosecution objects, my lord. On what grounds? As I suspect he will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out the man has been withholding information, You can be sure it will have been a most deliberate act. Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord, should we ask Mr. McGilded to testify or not? Demand this testimony. Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. The defense would like to call Mr. McGilded to the stand. In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury. Yes, I need a little time to consider this. If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilded has to say. Get the man out here, I say. It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony. When something needs doing, get it done. That's how I run things at the guild. Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say? Oh yes, that would be lovely. Yes, the jury says the man must be heard. Very well, the court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff, show the defendant to the stand at once. Now, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear. Let proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day? To be sure I have, my lord. There are now two matters on which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the omnibus cabin as proposed by the defense. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal that fact from the police? Big Ad, no, it is not in my nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the questions, please. The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell yous all or keep me mouth shut? Tell us what, Mr. McGilded? The fine fella representing me is absolutely right. In the carriage on the night with myself and the other man, there was another passenger. It's true? Aye, and 'twas me who helped the little urchin get away after it all happened. You what? A kid? No, Magnus McGilded, that convenient excuse can't save you now. I'm truly sorry, so I am, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm sure you'll be wanting to know why I said nothing when I was taken in by the police. I do be having a very good reason, I assure you. Which was? Well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time and not in any way involved, you see. What? If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hauled her into this here courtroom just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord. And who was this young child of whom you speak? That I don't know. You don't know? Aye, well, the wee thing just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw her before or since. We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witnesses' statements to be disregarded by the court. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak, listening to the proceedings. What? Bang! What's that? Ah, smoke! Ah, fire! There's a fire! Look, someone's trying to get away! After them! It's no use! Can't see anything through all that smoke. What is going on? Be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Cover your face. Bailiff, don't let the accused escape! Secure the omnibus! I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom. We were hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff, amid scenes of chaos as people stumbled over one another in their desperation to flee the chamber. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew was that, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. To be continued. The Old Bailey. 18th of February, 12:52 p.m. The Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber. What on earth just happened in there? Mr. Naruhodo, I've managed to find out what happened. Oh yeah? What? Miss Susanto, I was told it was an advanced form of smoke grenade, a type of exploding device that releases smoke. A smoke grenade? It sounds like the sort of thing ninjas use. They're just making sure everything is safe now. I think the trial will start again before long, but who would have done something like that? The police managed to catch someone who was trying to flee the courtroom apparently. Is it the girl in question? Flee the courtroom? Why? Well, it's a young girl of around 15, I hear. Is it Nina Pavlova? Nikolina? Or whatever her name is, or full name? A young girl? Then could it be the other passenger that Mr. McGilded was just talking about? My thoughts exactly, so he wasn't lying. Oh, what's become of Mr. McGilded actually? There are so many things I need to ask him about, but he's not here. I think he was summoned to the prosecutor's antechamber to answer questions, along with the young girl. Who is she, I wonder? And what was she even doing here at the trial? She was taking a huge risk, and for what possible benefit to herself? There's another matter that's troubling me. What's that? 20 pence. Hmm? Oh, according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 4 passengers that night at a fare of 5 pence each. That comes to a total of 20 pence exactly. She was stowing away. But now it seems there were in fact 5 passengers, which means the figures don't seem to add up again. She's right. That is strange. Counsel for the defense, kindly proceed into the courtroom. The trial will recommence in 5 minutes. Oh, thank you, officer. We'll go in straight away. Well, whoever she is, I imagine this young girl will be asked to take the stand and testify now. I really can't imagine what she's going to say, but it could alter the whole direction of the trial. We'll know soon enough, Miss Susanto. Yes. Ah, there she is. Yeah, it's her probably. She's blonde. There's the young girl next to Mr. McGilded. Look, she must have been the one who caused the disturbance before. Well, after that rather eventful recess, the court will now resume the trial of Mr. Magnus McGilded. Now then, Lord Van Zeeks. What was that? You got to go? Is that what you mean? My lord, I believe you have established the cause of the smoke which veiled proceedings earlier. It seems to have been an advanced form of smoke grenade of the sort typically employed by the army. I swear to God. Yeah, true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, my bad. Sorry. Good gracious, the army? What in the devil's name? It was an elaborate attempt by a young girl to cloak her escape from the public gallery, but she was caught. And now occupies the stand. Your name, girl? Are you responsible for the smoke grenade which induced such pandemonium here in my courtroom? What is the meaning of this deplorable behavior? Ahem, if I may, my lord. Yes, Mr. McGilded. I think perhaps I ought to explain here why it is that this wheel-ass was here in the first place and why she tried to bolt like that. This all tied up with the events of that night, so it is. Very well, Mr. McGilded, give your testimony. You will explain to the court exactly how this young woman is involved in the case. Just what did happen that night. It's not like a defense lawyer needs that information or anything. The young girl. On the night in question, I took the back seat in the omnibus and promptly nodded off. Then Begora, a loud thud and a wee scream woke me up with a fair start. There was a fella collapsed on the floor at me feet, so I sat him up on the seat across from me. Then I turned to find out where that scream had come from, and bless my soul, what did I find? There was a child in there, all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away. I remained somewhat baffled, I confess, but from what I gather on the night in question, this young girl was indeed riding in the omnibus. Is that correct? This exactly as the defense counsel said. This last was the 5th passenger, my lord. Very well. The defense may now cross-examine the witnesses. Are you ready, counsel? Yes, my lord. Or rather, no. I have no idea where to start. Yeah. What's there to be said? I need more information. And on the night in question, I took blah 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 blah. Mata! And when you first got onto the omnibus, were there any other passengers already on board? There were not. The cabin was empty, and there was no one on the roof deck either. You were the first passenger, as it were. I see. Aye, and that's why I took the back side I did. As I did. It is the most comfortable, so it is. Could you explain exactly what you mean by the back seat? By all means, this is how you already described it earlier. I'm talking about the seat opposite the one in which the poor gentleman who was stabbed was sitting. Like I said, this is the most comfortable and where I feel most at ease. And of course, I enjoy gazing through the skylight from time to time as well. Then Begora, a loud thud and a wee scream woke me up with a fair start. A loud thud, you say? And a scream? Aye, that's right. How can I explain it? It was like the sound of someone falling to the ground. That sort of noise. So you think it was the sound of Mr. Mason falling to the floor having been stabbed? Well, now you remember I was asleep at the time, so I wouldn't like to say. And when the sound woke me and I opened my eyes, there wasn't a soul to be seen in the carriage but the fella on the floor. You didn't see anyone, but at the same moment you did hear a scream. Ah, from the seats above you on the roof deck, I presume. Not above me, no, my lord. It was from inside the cabin. But I wasn't altogether thinking about the screen. No, I was too stunned by the desperate sight before my eyes. There was a fella collapsed on the floor at me feet, so I sat him up on the seat across from me. You sat him up, the victim, you mean? That I did, on the seat across from me, as I said. I could plainly see the poor devil was already gone. And you wouldn't leave a dead man just lying on the floor now, would you? 'Tis common courtesy, so it is. Find that a little hard to believe. Ara, Lord Van Zeeks, now why would that be? You wake to find a man lying dead at your feet in a carriage. Any normal person would hail the cabman. Any upstanding member of London society, that is. Well now, as you know, I'm in something of a special line of business. I said the S word. Yeah, society. The business of lending money at exorbitant rates of interest. Unfortunately, my lord, not everyone is thankful for the help I offer them, and some would even see me dead. So I do try, where at all possible, to avoid getting myself in a tangle with trouble. Are you suggesting you were just going to leave the man there? Heavens alive, no! I was always intending to report it, so I was. Only I had a mind to find out the whys and wherefores first. Whys and wherefores? Right you are. There were some details I wanted to understand before anyone else got to meddling. That wee scream I heard, for example. Wouldn't your good self do just the same? Yes, the scream he says he heard at the same time as the thud of the victim collapsing. I'm afraid I don't understand. I'm sure you told the court that there was no one else in the carriage except yourself and the victim. So I did, sir. So I did, as far as I could see, that is. What do you mean by that? Well, now, it's a queer thing. The wee scream I heard as I woke up. It came from, if you'll excuse the vulgar expression, under me backside. Good gracious! Under your backside? And when I lifted the seat on which I'd been sitting, I found there was a wee cubby hole there for storage. Mr. Naruhodo, we can examine the omnibus ourselves, remember? Yes, of course, the whole bus was submitted as evidence. This would be a very good time to have a thorough look around inside, yeah. Let's open the door and go inside, shall we? The scene of a murder. It's horrible. Okay, so there was blood on the floor. That's blood, isn't it? Something wrong? Oh, it's just, well, this bloodstain is so obvious, that's all. And yet Van Zieks had made no mention of it. I suppose that does seem a little strange. Why do I have such a bad feeling about this? This seat has a handle, it seems. This is a storage compartment, but there's nothing in here. It's totally empty. Something doesn't seem right here, but I can't put my finger on what it is. Ah, there's no such compartment on the other side. Okay, what's this? Ah, that's a poster for the great exhibition that's due to start in 6 months from now. There's a lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower, the centerpiece of the whole exposition. Oh, the Crystal Tower, it's under construction already, I believe. People all over London must be fizzing with excitement at the prospect of such a grand event. Ah, okay, the same thing, I guess, if I examine this one. Can you close it? Yeah. Alright. What about the seat itself? No? The seat looks reasonably soft, but it's actually rather hard when you sit on it. And only just wide enough for two gentlemen to sit side by side, really. Of course, an English gentlewoman would be dressed in such finery. It would be quite impossible for her to climb up to the roof deck, so she would have to be sitting here. A woman in a kimono would have the same problem. Women's clothes are very impractical, aren't they? Okay, let's examine everything. That blood that's soaked into the seat, the victim's obviously. Yes, and that seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck. Would you really stab somebody in full view of the other passengers like that, I wonder? Well, it was after dark, and there was a lamp on in here, so perhaps the culprit couldn't see anything outside through the skylight. Whichever way you look at it, it doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. Well, the skylight. It's quite a large skylight, isn't it? Yes, quite large enough to afford a good view into the cabin from the roof deck. And there doesn't appear to be a handle or catch of any description. So I suppose it can't be opened from inside the cabin at least. Have you seen enough? Let's step back outside then. Think I have. And that's when I found her. There was a child in there all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away. Okay, that must be the last piece of testimony. You say she was hiding herself? Aye, that's right. 'Twas hard to see in the dim lamplight. But she was all curled up in a wee ball. When our eyes met, well, me heart nearly stopped beating in me chest. You're really overacting this. Still in all, I pulled her out from under there and sat her on the seat opposite so I could have a wee chin wag with her. The seat opposite? That's right, just next to the dead gentleman there. You sat this young girl next to a corpse, sir? Well, as I'm sure I mentioned, a gentleman in my position can all too often find himself in mortal danger. So, I needed to find out just who this urchin was, you see. And while I was in the middle of talking with her, I heard another scream, a fella's voice this time. Presumably that scream was Mr. First, who was sitting on the roof deck seats. Right you are again, I would say, sir. Looking down through the skylight, he must have seen this young girl and the gentleman with the knife in his belly. In other words, the previous witnesses did not in fact see you at all, Mr. McGilded. What they believed to be yourself and the victim was in fact this girl and the late Mr. Mason. Aye, my lord. I was, as I think everyone understands now, sat at the back of the carriage out of sight. It is certainly plausible. The defendant is somewhat diminutive in stature, and readily confused perhaps with this young girl. After that, of course, with the scream from the gentleman over us, the driver realized something was wrong and pulled up the horses. Thank you, I've heard enough. The events as explained are clear in my mind. However, at least one conundrum remains. Who is the girl? Her name is Gina Lestrade, my lord. Gina Lestrade, also. She's a chancer, earns her crust among large crowds, relieving people of their purses. What's commonly called a pickpocket. What? This girl here, a petty thief? Hordar, Hordar! Is this true, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade, you will answer the question. Arg! How dare you? What is the meaning of this? Ah, the girl. She's gone. Open your eyes. I'm over here. Good gracious, how? What was the point in that little sidestep? I know what you lot are thinking. Grown-ups are all the same. Is that really the Pavlova girl, actually? Come to think of it? I'm not so sure anymore. This dirty little dipper, you'll say, slipped up and got caught on the job. She's got herself backed into a corner, so she knifed the gent. Go on. That's what's in your head, ain't it? Yeah, I don't think it's her now. No, not at all. This is a court of law. We're here to determine the truth. Look, knives are for cowards. Only thugs use weapons like that. All I need for what I do is these fingers. I'm a professional, alright? Maybe not in your eyes, but I got pride in what I do. Let me guess, you don't count smoke guns among weapons for thugs? Oh, this? Yeah, it was in a bag I lifted the other day down where they keep the four-wheel drags. She took it from Holmes, or Sholmes, as it were, I guess. It's nice, innit? It's like the pink vest. Arr, do not wave that thing in my direction again. So, you admit that you were riding the omnibus on that night in question. This alright, lass. You can tell them the truth now. Alright, yeah, it's just like the Irishman said. The court accepts this girl, Miss Gina Lestrade, as a valid and significant witness in this case. Accordingly, young lady, we will now hear your testimony, if you please. You will tell the court exactly what happened in the omnibus on the night in question. Alright, if I have to. What the girl saw. So I snuck inside the carriage before they hooked up the horses, just like always. But it was a right old waste of time. I got nothing to show for my troubles that night. I'll tell you can't see a blind thing in that hiding place. It's pitch in there. Then after a while I heard this loud bang, nearly jumped out my skin, I did. And the scream just came out. It's because of that the swell found me. It did help me get away, mind. Yes, he let you go. I fail to understand why you would let this street urchin go, Mr. Mike Gilded. Oh, the simplicity itself, my lord. You see, she couldn't possibly have killed the other passenger. I knew that for a fact. How? As I'm sure I said before, sir. He was sitting on the thing, so if she was inside, she couldn't have gotten out, right? I was sitting right on top of the place where she was hiding herself. I think a demonstration is called for. This is where I was sat that night, and the cubbyhole of which you have spoken is underneath the seat, I presume? Yeah. Yes, it does appear just large enough to accommodate someone of the girl's stature. Aye, but of course the wee lass was stuck in there, because you were sitting on top of it, so that makes sense. Because I parked myself on the seat for the duration, yep. Ah. So you see, that's why I let the lass bolt. I knew that if the police found her there, they'd automatically assume she'd done it. But I couldn't live with myself if a young life was ruined when all the time I knew she was innocent. Even though you must have realized your action would result in your own innocence being called into question. Not at all, my lord, not at all. I knew in my own heart that I was innocent. So I thought it was worth taking the punt on my own good name for the sake of this less fortunate lass. My goodness! What a perfect gentleman. My lord, this fine example of a man cannot possibly be guilty of a heinous crime like this. I'm ashamed of myself for ever doubting you, sir. Well, that's good, isn't it? With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time. Well, that's it. He's not guilty, isn't he? Saints alive, all 6 members of the jury consensual and they're leaning to a verdict of not guilty? Mr. Naruhodo, this, well, it must mean what? Wait, but the other guy, can he do the same thing that I did, maybe to, make the jurors change their mind or something? That we're victorious. We've won? Are you sure? Yeah, that would be too easy, wouldn't it? If the sight of my iron-heeled Wellington offends, pray do forgive the discourtesy. This really is a consummate example of the one monumental flaw in British judicial practices. Where evidence and reasoning should be paramount, emotion rules the day. Emotion? The witness's latest statement gives us a clear insight into his true nature. What do you mean, his true nature? Do you really think Scotland Yard would have made such a glaring omission? After the incident, the omnibus was comprehensively searched by officers of the police. Obviously, the interior of this cubbyhole, as the witness put it, was included in their investigation. The compartment under the posterior seat was full of the coachman's belongings. It's noted in black and white here in the police report. Good lord! The evidence has been tampered with. In order to corroborate Mr. MacGilded's story, someone has unlawfully removed everything from under the seat. What? Order! Order! How could such a devious contrivance possibly have been effected, Counsel? Naturally, we must acknowledge the deficiencies of the constabulary in allowing this to have happened. However, I assure you, when the omnibus was wheeled into the courtroom this morning, the compartment under the seat was not empty. Well, my Nipponese friend. Me? When the carriage was submitted as evidence, doubtless you examined it in fine detail as would any self-respecting practitioner of the law. Pray, what did you find the condition of the underseat compartment to be? It was empty. Oh, to be sure, the young gentleman will be able to clear this up in a jiffy. Sorry? Go ahead, you tell the court now, fella. How this is all an elaborate excuse by the desperate Lord Van Zeeks. Well, Counsel, do you have something to say on this matter? How am I supposed to answer? What can I say about the state of that little compartment under the seat in the omnibus? When I looked, it was empty. Or, at what moment, really? I didn't look at that time. At what moment? That's a completely different thing, depending on what time he's referring to. Because indeed, if the girl used the commotion with the smoke grenade to slip inside and steal everything that may have been in the compartment, then yeah. Sorry, I'm a failure. I didn't look. Why didn't I examine the omnibus more thoroughly? If he's mentioning the time that the thing was brought in, perhaps I credited with you with too much intelligence. It seems, my lord, that this Eastern initiate is as unreliable as wine from the barrel. It wouldn't let me go inside at that time, at all. Mr. Naruhodo. Well, now it would seem the argument is moot, and the truth of the matter is there for yous all to see after all. That there cubbyhole under the seat is as empty as the devil's heart, so it is. Why do I feel like something's not right here? I should like the jury to weigh in on this matter, I think. That compartment is designed to house equipment used to maintain the smooth running of the carriage. The guild's rules state that omnibuses should be properly and fully equipped at all times, so it certainly wouldn't have been empty on the night in question. Beppo isn't that irresponsible. That money-lending fleecer and the pick purse are lying. Ah, well. Ah! Can't believe I was nearly taken in. The stinking rich are always stinkers, nothing but cowards, the lot of them. What? Oh no! It's a trick! Of course it's a trick! Quite so, I must concur here. With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time. Yes, but every time is a different truth, it seems. My lord, I humbly exhibit the scales of justice. Clearly a verdict of not guilty at this time would be wholly inappropriate. Thank you, counsel, but before we proceed any further, there is the matter of the outstanding cross-examination. Counsel for the defense, begin your questioning of the witness, please. Yes, my lord, what has happened? The whole balance of the trial just shifted almost beyond recognition. The Reaper of the Bailey is at work, it would seem. Okay, so I snuck inside the carriage before they hooked up the horses, just like always. Mata! So you were already in the omnibus before it even set off on its run? Well, yeah, I mean, what's the point of spending a Joey to make a few bob, eh? That's a rum idea, innit? I suppose she means there's no point spending money to make money. It actually makes sense. Counsel, may I remind you that this girl is a petty thief? Kindly refrain from entertaining her tenants. Well, that does clear up the little mystery of the fares and all. 4 paying passengers at 5 pence apiece, making the 20 to which the cabman testified. And 1 little scapegrace riding for free. The wrecked conch of a driver always goes for some grub before his last run, see? So that's when I slip into the carriage and get myself hidden under the seat. Nice and easy, right? But your hiding place is a storage compartment, full of equipment for the coach, no? Ah, she's not answering here. Yeah, there's brushes and buckets and whatnot in there, sure. I always chuck all that out and cram it in a corner somewhere. No one ever seems to bother much. And yet, according to the report filed by the police officer who first arrived at the scene, the compartment was full of such paraphernalia. Well, I don't know nothing about that. Like I said, I moved all that stuff so I could hide under the seat. That's all I can tell ya. It seems we've reached the end of that line of inquiry. Continue. But it was a right old waste of time. I got nothing to show for me troubles that night. A waste of time? Why is that? Well, most nights I'm on me own and the got permit at least some of the time. I beg your pardon, did you say got permit? Oh yeah, well that's what my kind call it. You'd say the omnibus, I suppose. The point is, any normal run, the carriage ain't got no one in it for a while. And that's when you come out of your hiding place and get away. That's it, only that night. This cove was sat on me seat from the start. And he didn't budge the whole way, did he? Not 1 inch, I was totally stuck. Do you mean to tell us that you were present in the carriage for the duration? You were under the seat the entire time while events unfolded in the enclosed cabin? Yeah, right, mister. To be sure, I was as shocked as anyone. You don't expect to lift the cushion you've been sat on and find a child now, do you? So this Miss Lestrade couldn't possibly be the culprit then. I'll tell ya, you can't see a blind thing in that hiding place. It's pitch in there. Oops, oh, sorry, hold on, I wanted to press on that previous one. So you couldn't see out into the cabin at all? Not a jot. Most days I put the cushion up with me head and look out the crack. Then I can have a butcher's at who I'm gonna fiddle. I thought you were a pickpocket, not a butcher. I mean, I can have a look. The seat I get under ain't as plush as the other ones, see? So most of the time the passengers plant themselves opposite. But for some reason that night, this here Irishman spent the whole journey right over me head. And for that reason you weren't able to push the cushion up to peek out, I see. Truth is, I ain't too happy in small dark places. Feels too much like being thrown in the clink. But it's the only place to hide in them carriages, so it's Upson's choice. Why doesn't she just stick to picking people's pockets in the open then? I'd say there's some reason that she's not letting on, judging from her demeanor. So anyways, I was a bit scared, but I had to just stick it out under there, nothing else for it. Then after a while I hear this loud bang, nearly jumped out of me skin I did, and the scream just came out. A bang? When you say a loud bang, do you mean the noise of someone falling to the floor? Could have been, I suppose. I don't remember so well. Point is, it made me jump. And you let out a scream involuntarily. That's right, and then I felt the cushion over me head get lighter all of a sudden. Presumably when the defendant got up in order to help the victim, yes? Or not, it could equally have been the moment the accused stood in order to stab his victim, could it not? Well, girl, did you see what happened at that crucial moment? Yeah, I saw it. I pushed up the cushion and had a quick butcher's while I had a chance, didn't I? The Irishman was setting up the bloke who had fallen on the floor on the seat opposite. That matches Mr. McGilded's account, of course. But then the fella suddenly turns around and looks right at me. I sunk back down again, but it was too late by then. I should never have risked looking. Because of that, this swell found me. He did help me get away, mind. Hold on. All 6 members of the jury had decided the defendant was innocent. For one brief shining moment, yes. It's clear that they are all still very unsure. If we could just find some conclusive piece of evidence among this new testimony, I'm sure we would clinch the verdict we want. Yes, I think you're right, and I have this niggling feeling. Something's bothering me, but I just can't quite put my finger on it. Hold on, let me press on the last one as well. Ah, crap, I went too far. And when Mr. McGilded discovered you, he pulled you out from your hiding place. I was scared stiff, I was. He dragged me out and sat me down on the seat and all. Next to the victim, Mr. Mason. Yeah, the bloke had a knife in his guts, he was. Still bleeding. Then the carriage lurched a bit and he ended up falling onto me. How awful. Both me hands got covered in blood. It made me feel sick as a dog. Ah, interesting. Both our hands covered in blood. That must be what the rooftop passengers saw. After that, I believe you talked with Mr. McGilded for a while. Is that correct? He asked me some stuff. Wanted to know me name and what I was up to and that. Then I heard something from up above. Someone screamed. Yes, Mr. First on the roof deck, one would presume. Well, I didn't want no one seeing the face, so I didn't look up. Then the horses were drawn up smartish, and this here Irishman says to me, "Get back into the seat. I'll see that you can get away later." All 6 members of the jury had decided the defendant was innocent. Yeah, well, that's what we already heard. I have this niggling feeling something's bothering me, but I just can't quite put my finger on it. Something that she's hiding. That was what was mentioned before. What was it again? Couldn't see out into the cabin at all. Not a jot most days. I push the cushion up with me head and look out the crack. Then I can have a butcher's at who I'm gonna fiddle. I mean, I can have a look. The seat I get under ain't as plush as the other one. Yeah, For some reason that night, this here Irishman spent the whole journey right over me head. And for that reason, you weren't able to push the cushion up to peek out, I see. Sate sate. Ah, something here. Is something wrong, Mr. McGilded? Oh, I do apologize. Was there something the matter, counsel? I'm just wondering if Miss Lestrad's last comment made something occur to you, perhaps. You seemed to be thinking something to yourself. Oh, no, it was nothing important. I was feeling bad for the poor lass is all. I remember feeling desperate myself as a young lad, shut up in the dark. 'Twas terrifying, so it was. I see. Yes, I'm sure we can all sympathize. I'm still scared of the dark now. Aye, and I don't know about yourself, but I find that the darkness seems to make everything you hear seem that much louder as well. Yeah. I suppose it does, maybe. Miss Lestrade? Did you hear something that night? Anything? An unusual noise, perhaps? Nah, not really. All I could hear was the Irishman snoring. Bejabbers, there's no need to tell the whole world of me foibles, you little scamp. What a pity. If only Miss Lestrade had heard something, it might have given us a vital new clue. Yes. What should we make of that last statement of hers? Well, if I say it's insignificant, I'm back to where I started, so it's probably important, right? My lord, I believe the statement just made by the witness is profoundly important. Although I don't know why yet. Profoundly important, but all she said was that she heard nothing. Yes, which is the profoundly important point. I'm almost sure of it. What is it that she should have heard, then? I mean, yeah, perhaps that when you get stabbed in the gut, you don't die instantly, I guess. He would have shouted or something. She said she heard a thud, but nothing else? How is that possible? I'm almost sure that I don't understand the inner workings of your Eastern mind, Counsel. Nevertheless, Miss Gina Lestrade, you will supplement your formal testimony by repeating that last statement, please. What? Supplement? What are you on about? Don't give me all your fancy talk. I know what you're trying to do, but it won't work on me. That's right, insult the judge, always a good move. I was straining my ears to work out what was going on, but all I could hear was snoring. Then after a while I hear this loud bang, nearly jumped out of me skin I did. Okay. Ah yeah, this is the new statement, okay. So you were straining to hear what was happening the entire time, since the moment you hit yourself? Not exactly, no. Sorry? Well, there was no one in the cabin to start with. I could just push the cushion up and have a butcher's to see what was what. But then when I saw the swell getting on, I got me head down, so he didn't notice me. And Mr. McGillet sat on the seat under which you were hiding, correct? Yeah, would you Adam and Eve it? Would you Adam and Eve it, eh? What a mug. So then all I could do was listen. I was waiting to jump out there as soon as I heard him leave, see? But Woody, not likely. Even though we stopped here and there, I never heard the door open. So I just had to stay put and listen to him driving his picks to market, snoring like an old dog he was. So all she heard was him snoring, but not the victim getting on board? Because if there was no one when she got in, and then this guy came in and sat on top of her, when did the victim get in then? Just had to stay put and listen to... Is there blood on the top of the carriage, actually? Because I suppose if the victim was killed on the top of the carriage and then lowered into the area down there through the skylight, that could explain things. Yeah, but I can't see anything. Yeah, not a single trace of blood up there. Are there any conclusions we can draw from that, I wonder? It doesn't add up. Miss Lestrade, what you have just told the court is clearly at odds with the facts. At odds? Are you sure, man? He called him man. Absolutely. It seems my learned Nipponese friend is not as dull-witted as I feared. So Van Deeks realized it too. Counsel, I must insist that you bolster your claim with evidence, or some complicit party's name at the very least. Yes, my lord. I expect you to demonstrate this alleged contradiction to the court. According to Miss Lestrade, whilst she was hiding in the omnibus that night, she heard nothing but the sound of Mr. McGilded snoring. But think, Ryunosuke, think. There's something else she should have heard. Very well, my lord, allow me to elaborate. On a particular sound that Miss Lestrade could not have failed to hear on the night in question. The sound very clearly explained by the presence of the following person. She never heard him come onto the thing, onto the carriage, I guess, into the omnibus. Thrice fired Mason? Yes, my lord, the sound that Miss Lestrade cannot have failed to hear is that of the victim, Mr. Mason, boarding the omnibus. Hordar, Hordar. Explain your reasoning, counsel. Miss Lestrade, allow me to confirm something. You claimed earlier that you were the first person on board the omnibus, is that correct? Well, otherwise she couldn't have hidden under the seat. Yeah, of course I was. I got on while the driver was in the pub, didn't I? And the next person to board the omnibus was Mr. McGilded. That it was. Not a soul was in the cabin when I climbed aboard. At least not in plain sight. So you were, to all intents and purposes, alone in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus at that time. Did I not just say as much? I wasn't traveling with anyone else, if that's what you mean. Yeah, I saw him get on, remember? Through the crack under the seat cushion. He was on his own for sure. And from what we've heard, the carriage made a number of stops after that on its onward journey. During which time did you not hear the door opening or closing at all? Nah, I never heard it. That's exactly what I was listening for, weren't it? Waiting for the swell to leave. In which case, when and how did the victim end up in the carriage? We know that the victim collapsed inside the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. Therefore, Miss Lestrade's statement about what she did or did not hear is at odds with the facts. Yes, this petty thief's statement was clearly flawed. Lord Van Zeeks? Yes, he knew all too well that there was an inconsistency in Miss Lestrade's statement. It would seem words of thanks are in order for my learned friend. What are you talking about? You have demonstrated matters impeccably. This witness and her colorful statements are entirely unreliable. Her words are convenient untruth, nothing more. He's dead right. How could the victim possibly not have boarded the omnibus? That makes no sense whatsoever. And this girl is a pickpocket, let's not forget that. Uh-oh. Oh no, it's tilting the other way again now. She didn't even say anything. I didn't want to judge the dear little mite just because she had some rather naughty ways, but I must say, I can't abide liars. And neither can I, Mr. Foreman. I didn't want to judge the girl just because she has some less than salubrious ways. But I must say, I cannot abide liars. Arg! Mr. Naruhodo, that's 5 jury members leaning towards guilty. Yeah, the maid remains, no? Well, your consideration for others is refreshing, my Nipponese friend. To the considerable troubles you have spared me. Yes, very refreshing. Arg! Arg, what are you playing at? Have you forgotten who you're working for, you useless Eastern Amadon? This is carnage, it's perfect. Juror number 2 is the only one left. Mr. Naruhodo, the way this is going, I know, if we can't find some new way to convince everyone of Mr. McGilded's innocence, the judge will rule and will have lost. I very much wanted to believe the words of one of London's most respected gentlemen, but Those of us in service know we must accept hard truth. Mata! Yes, the witness's last statement seems to have revealed a critical inconsistency in our story. However, if we consider the possibility that our statement is in fact the truth, it may shed an entirely new light on this whole case. What are you saying? Counsel? I'm sorry, sir. Whatever do you mean? With her fists still in the air. Counsel, I will not tolerate you attempting to prorogue my adjudication. Oh boy. Explain yourself at once. When the accused boarded the omnibus on the night in question, the victim was nowhere to be seen. Subsequently, the carriage door was not heard opening a single time, as testified by the witness in the stand. And yet the victim's body was found inside the carriage. Actually, the fact that he would be dropped down through the skylight makes perfect sense with the thud that she heard. I mean, it wouldn't have been lowered down gently, right? He was already dead, and he was unceremoniously dropped down through the skylight, I suppose. But then that would mean that the other two witnesses that were on top of the thing must have been in on it or something. And yet the victim's body was found inside the carriage. If this petty thief's words are to be believed, how do you explain the victim's miraculous appearance inside the cabin of the omnibus? There's only one way to explain how the victim came to be inside the carriage. There's another entrance. The skylight. I knew that handle on it had to have some significance later down the line when I saw it earlier. If the door wasn't opened even once, the only explanation is that the victim entered the enclosed cabin some other way. I wondered what new fantasy you would come up with in your blind panic. But behold, the omnibus is here for all to see. Only one side of the enclosed cabin is furnished with a door. The other has only windows. Fixed windows, which cannot possibly open. In short, there is no entrance to the cabin other than the door. But there could be. There is one possibility you haven't considered. Oh, really? Yes, one other way inside that isn't the door. Another opening, the use of which allowed the victim to appear inside the enclosed cabin. Alright, counsel. The defense will identify the location for the court. Yeah, the skylight. We know. The answer is obvious. It can only have been the skylight. I say, the skylight? Your ludicrous proposal almost has lost me for words. However, the skylight may well be large enough for someone to pass through. So you claim, but do you have a shred of evidence to support your addle-brained theory? Both Mr. McGilded and Miss Lestrade said the same in their testimonies. They each claimed to have heard a loud thud, such as the noise made by someone falling to the floor. Yes, which has already been explained, as the sound of the victim falling from his seat. Maybe not from his seat. Yes, it has, but would a man slipping from the seat onto the floor really have made such a loud noise as the witnesses describe? And now a noise loud enough to cause Miss Lestrade to let out an involuntary cry, in fact. Good gracious. Perhaps, in fact, that was the moment that the victim made his entrance into the cabin. No, let me rephrase that. The victim didn't enter the cabin as such. He fell into it. You're now suggesting that the victim fell from the skylight into the cabin? That's simply impossible. How can you be so sure? Because if the victim had fallen inside through the skylight, as you say, the passengers on the roof deck would have seen it happen. Well, maybe they did, and they were lying about it all along. And yet, not one person made mention of such events in their testimony. Well, yes, that's true, but they could have been lying. Might the humble fella make a weak comment here? But Mr. McGilded. To be sure now, the two fellas who were sat on the roof that testified before said nothing of the victim falling through the skylights, but it seems to me, my lord, that this is not so much a case of them not saying, but... Aye. This is a case of them being unable to say. What? I think perhaps the two fellas do be having something of a compelling reason not to mention what happened. Would yous not agree, fine ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Oh my goodness, surely not. Those two chaps on the roof? You mean the ones who stuck that knife in the man were... Arg! Hold it, and here they are, they're back. Just what exactly are you insinuating here, you blitherer? You rotter, he said, you rotter, what are you insinuating? And what is he doing? What is he doing there? Anyway, this is a flaming outrage. I have a good mind to give you a blinker in a minute. It'll give you a shiner in a minute, he said, and so will I. Mr. Fairplay, you're effectively accusing me, a city gentleman and well-respected banker. And me, a very angry hatter. Suggesting that someone like me could have stabbed that man in the guts, it's a disgrace. It's scandalous. It's... Arrgh! I protest in the strongest possible terms. That's right, I protest too, about you, you rotten scoundrel! Hordar! This is not the time, witnesses. I will not permit this wanton invasion of the stand. Return to the anteroom at once. But this is beyond reason, my lord. Arr, it's outrageous. It's very hurtful, you know? My lord, if I may command. Go ahead, Lord Van Zeeks. It was the defense that incited this outburst from the witnesses. My learned friend has seen fit to abandon old protocol and accuse the witnesses without proof. Accuse? I never intended to. It seems, young Nipponese, that your command of the English tongue is wanting. You propose to this court that the victim fell through the skylight from the roof deck of the omnibus. That hypothesis cannot possibly stand without the rooftop passengers being aware of the events. You have branded these gentlemen liars. You have intimidated their criminal guilt. In our British courts of law, that is what is termed a baseless accusation. I know I was rash to put this idea forward without any actual evidence, but you can't just dismiss it without a second thought. What are we wasting time for? Get them to testify! I thought there was something fishy about that hat from the moment I laid eyes on the fellow. We have to see this matter through now, one way or another. If there is filth and rubbish in our midst, we must dispose of it at once. Testify! But what's happening, Mr. Naruhodo? The spectators in the public gallery are... they're in a complete frenzy. Mr. Fairplay and Mr. First. My lord? You will take the stand again and make another formal testimony in reference to the indictment brought by the defense. Yes, my lord. I didn't come here for this. There is no time to think this through. All I can do is keep pushing forward. Refuting the accusation. We were the only two people up on that roof deck, dead or alive, I can swear to that. If anything had happened where we were sitting, don't you think one or the other of us would have noticed? In any case, neither of us know the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill the man. Come to think of it, I think the hat of the victim and the hat of the hatter looks kind of similar. Dingy is the word I would use to describe it. Well, anyway. In any case, neither of us know the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill the man. The skylight was shut the entire time, I tell you. We couldn't possibly have opened it. If you're so sure the victim fell through the skylight, where's your proof? I must say that on listening to this testimony, it is somewhat hard to imagine. Yeah, I don't really know where to start, I must say. How either witness could have performed any malevolent act on this open rooftop deck, without the other noticing forthwith. That's right, you see. We're innocent, I tell you! Although logically, of course, the argument falls down if the two of you were in collusion with one another. What? Eh? According to investigations by Scotland Yard, the two witnesses share no common dealings. Well, I don't trust coppers any more than I trust the stinking rich. Something doesn't feel right here. The trial is going in our favor, really. So why do I feel so uneasy? Counsel for the defense, over to you. Your cross-examination, please. But that'll have to wait for tomorrow, though, because I'm gonna have to go and have dinner. And I'll probably have to press everything, so I think we're not out of the woods yet. So I will probably be finishing this case tomorrow then. And get on with episode 4. Since we seem to be that close. And I'll be back tomorrow afternoon around the same time then. Yep. Thanks for watching, Society Guy. Take care then, have a good day ahead of you. And I should be back tomorrow. See ya. Take care. Bye-bye.